Good afternoon, everyone. We are excited to be here today. Blessed to be here. Blessed to be here. And blessed to be here while the sun is up. Y'all know I love to stream when the sun is up. So today, the scheduled program, and it hasn't changed. We are trying to speak to our favorite people to talk to and pick their brains and hopefully introduce them to Christ. And that is the atheist. I think today our prerogative is to go into these conversations, helping atheists understand the perspective that we both share. Sometimes me and Malik deliver this perspective differently, but ultimately our goal is the same, which is a common ground between understanding and a push towards the truth. Now, how we get to this destination is dependent on the people that we speak to, but our goal is one in the same. So I think today a better approach, because we're just men. Well, I'm a woman, but we're just men. So we're trying to figure out how to have effective progressive conversations, and that takes time and effort, which is what we want to put forward. So today, I think that the best way for us to move forward is to identify the type of belief system the people that we're speaking to tonight hold and go from there.
Oh, you can't say that. You can't say belief system.
Worldview. See, that's one thing I corrected. Worldview, right?
Yeah.
Philosophical worldview.
Yeah.
We've been corrected that atheism is not a belief system. It's not a theology. It's not an ideology. That is a very
worldview.
So a philosophical worldview. And under the blanket of philosophical worldview, we have agnostic atheists, we have hard atheists, and what was the last one? What was the last one you said, Malik?
Are you talking about the types of atheists?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have like I said, like you just said, we have
Agnostic, hard atheists.
Hard atheists, and then you have your like, how can I explain it? You have your like cultural atheists.
You can do a breakdown of each one of those. Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah, it'll be a cultural atheist. So you have three different types of atheists, right? These three are the most common. There's like deeper ones, but these are the three most common that every atheist falls under. So you have agnostic atheist, right? This is a person who says, I don't believe in God, but I'm not claiming I don't know God doesn't exist. So you'll hear things from them, like from an agnostic atheist, you'll hear things like, I'm just not convinced, or show me the evidence, right? This is where a lot of common people in our generation now are sitting at. They're sitting in the agnostic atheism area. They're sitting in the area where they say, show me the evidence because I'm not convinced. This is an agnostic atheist, right? Then you also have a strong atheist or a hard atheist. These are the hardest people to talk to. These are the people who say, God does not exist. There is no evidence. Don't show me evidence because there is no evidence. Religion is man-made. So we're talking about hard. That's a hard atheist. A hard atheist is just cut, dry to the point. There is no God. Don't tell me about evidence because there is no evidence for it. Period. Point blank. That's a hard atheist. These are the hardest people to talk to. Then you have your cultural atheists, right? These are people who just live as if God doesn't exist. All right. These are people who identify as atheists, but really they're just like living as if God doesn't exist. Like these are your people who say things like, like what? Like religion causes harm. You don't really need God to be moral. Science can explain everything, right? So they're just kind of living in a world of, the culture says we can explain things. Therefore, I don't really need God. This is a cultural atheist. So you have these three types: agnostic atheists, hard atheists, and cultural atheists. These are your three types.
And just a little emphasis on cultural. I think the way I understand it is an atheist that's not really versed in like research. They haven't did the deep dive, the spiral of evidence, or trying to figure out what it is they actually believe. I think that because they don't like morals overall, they don't want to be told how to behave in ethics. they kind of just fall into that category. So I don't think it's something. Why are you laughing?
No, I just want to point out something. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to point out this was someone who was on our stream last time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were on our stream a couple times, and I think they're an atheist, but they're pointing out that they're happy that we're kind of actually understanding their perspective and just instead of just saying this is what you are. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. We have done some research to actually come into your worldview and not just put things on you without asking. So we've actually deep dived and done some research into what your worldview means. So,
and I think sometimes by habit, what I will acknowledge is
I
that
don't agree, but
right. But what I will acknowledge from habit is that sometimes we can be very not just us, but believers in general can be very presumptuous. But that's kind of a habit of ours, especially because we understand that we have the truth. And so when that happens, we kind of like stomp a little bit. And so we're just trying to take a little step back from stomping and try to understand and have real productive conversations. Now, what I wanted to say about the
look what he's doing.
Fowling. Yeah,
Fowling.
and Fowling, the sucky part is hopefully I get to catch a good piece of this conversation, but I have to leave early tonight, guys. I have Bible study, but I will be here for the time being. But okay, this is all I'm gonna say.
Appreciate this.
What was I about to say? The cultural atheists, and then it doesn't matter. I lost it.
All these denominations of atheists reminds me of the LGBTQ stuff. Confusing.
Mo, that's what I was saying. I think that it's very difficult to have a conversation that is like, for the better term, politically correct in their understanding, because sometimes we just kind of put blanket statements on things and, just say what we think it is. But what we're finding out is atheists are very sensitive about their worldview and how they perceive the world. So we just want to extend a respect to that, nowhere near a denial of God or Christ, because that's what we stand 10 toes down about, but also like having that respect level so that we can have a productive conversation. Because I think that we continue to go in circles when they want to like emphasize things.
Yeah.
So,
let's bring Mr. Foulwind up.
Hey, how's it going today?
Hey, how you doing?
Not too bad. How's business been?
Busy.
Excellent. What's the topic of discussion today?
So, go ahead. You can tell. Go ahead.
Well, today we had some different type of questions that we wanted to ask from you guys' perspective. This has more to do with evidence based. I'm thinking that's the direction of this conversation. It's more about presenting evidence and seeing how you guys respond to the evidence that we present, rather than making you present evidence.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. Basically, what we find is, we've humbled ourselves and we realized atheists are right. I'm not even being funny. You're right. Christians have the burden of proof, right? Because we're claiming something is true. We're claiming something is real. We're claiming God is real, and we're claiming Jesus is real, right?
Sure.
So you're right. We have the burden of proof on us, and we're here to say, if we give you our evidence, would that be sufficient enough for you? And our evidence or would you be open-minded to the evidence?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And by the one thing I think, I can't speak for all atheists, but by the way, if someone's religious and they're like, listen, Christ has entered my heart, he has revealed himself to me, I need no more evidence to give you. Like, atheist is going to be like, all right, like,
right.
I think, but is if you want to give evidence, or if you say like, hey, like, I believe in God or Jesus or the Bible or anything else because of these things that I think are true, well, then there's a discussion to be had, right?
Yeah.
So I acknowledge some Christians are like, I don't need to get evidence. I have my own personal experience.
So I have a quick question. Following, what type of atheist would you presume yourself to be?
It's like when you ask a Christian, like, what kind of Christian are you Catholic, Orthodox? And they're like, listen, I don't like labels. The only thing I can say about my atheism is that I have not been convinced that any God or supernatural entities exist. That's the only thing I can say. I'm not even up to date on the latest like
So you will
labels for
be
atheist.
you will be what would be considered an agnostic atheist. You're
Mm.
just not convinced that there is a God. You're more in in the realm of I don't believe there's a God because I'm not convinced there's enough evidence for it.
Yeah, I will say specifically to Christianity, I'm more of a Gnostic atheist. I think I have good reason to think like the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament isn't accurate, isn't true. But if someone was like, "Hey, I believe in a divine power," I got nothing to say to that. So it's yeah.
Okay.
Malik, how about you start with a question for Fallon so we can.
Sure.
Okay. So my first question is I want to ask you, um, for yourself, right? Who do you use for knowledge? Like who do you go to? Do you go to teachers? Do you go to scholars? Who is your source of like finding information? Like
About
for
the Bible
example,
specifically or the world in
no, the
general?
world in general. Like for example, like do you believe in evolution?
Oh yeah, we talked about that. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So
so yeah,
for
what I tend to do is like, I go to my friends and family if I need to learn about plumbing or like, working on the house. If I'm trying to understand something way out of my league, I try to go to scholars. I'll start
yeah.
with, for example, layman books on cosmology or science or whatever. And then if I really get into it, I might look at some scholar works, like publications or scholars that have specifically, made layman books in their realm of expertise. So that's generally how I follow things.
Okay, so like anything that would be like above us, because we don't have like PhDs and stuff, right? So we will go to a scholar, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, I try to when possible. I mean,
Okay,
let's
so
say
scholar,
not all
you
scholars are equal, right? Like,
yes,
there's plenty of scholars who are like, the trick is, and you'll see this a
it
lot,
has
is
to be
like
in their field. It has to
in
be in
their
their field.
field and current and not one of the like the minority, right? But yeah, generally scholars.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So we both agree scholars are who we would generally go to. Like we are like trying to find out about evolution. We'll say let's go to a scholar who's actually versed and has a PhD in this field, right?
Sure, sure.
Okay. Okay. That's why I want to just be on the same page with that because we're presenting with evidence is going to be coming from scholars. So I don't want to be in a situation where it's like, well, I don't accept scholars as proof or as sufficient evidence. So it's
Oh
not
yeah,
going to be.
and
I'm not even going to use the Bible, is what I'm stating. I'm
oh,
going.
sure. And like one thing I want to throw out there is like, scholarship changes. So like, if you went to a modern biologist and you're like, well, Darwin said this, I think I would not misspeak to be like, we don't really care as much what Darwin said back like hundreds of years ago. We've moved past that. So as long as scholarship's current and like they're engaging in academic, research and taught and going to conferences, like, yeah, we try to go to scholars for the best information.
Okay. Okay. So where I want to start is I want to start with a foundation, right? And my foundation is have you heard of Bart Ehrman?
Oh yeah, I've watched some of his stuff. He just retired, in fact, I think
Yeah,
from
he did.
teaching these days. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I want to start with Bart Ehrman, right? And the reason I'm starting with Bart Ehrman is because he is a very significant piece. And just for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, Bart Ehrman is a skeptic scholar in iniquity. So he's a historian. He's a skeptic historian. So he's not a Christian. But I want to point out that Bart Ehrman himself agrees that Paul, the Apostle Paul, it was a real person. He
Sure.
confirms this. He confirms this. So he confirms Paul was a real person. And Paul wrote about 13 books, and Bart Ehrman doesn't agree to all 13, but he does agree with 7 of them. And
Yeah,
those
that's pretty
7,
common.
yeah, those 7 are Romans, First Corinthians, Second Corinthians, Galatians, Philippians, First Thessalonians, and Philemon.
Sure.
Those are the 7 that he says these are actual authentic works of Paul.
Yeah, the epistles most people don't think were actually written, etc. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with Yohin like scholarship, but I have heard what you're saying before.
Yes. Okay. So the reason I'm saying this is because Paul is my basis. I'm going to use Paul to give you evidence. And Bart Ehrman is someone who confirms that these are authentic from Paul.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So do we agree Paul's a real person?
Oh yeah, like, Jesus
Okay.
was a real person. I think Paul was a real person.
Oh,
I,
okay. Okay. So you
I
even
mean, he
believe
still said.
you
oh
even
no, but
believe
like,
Jesus was a real
so here's the
person.
thing. Like, I'm not a mythicist. What I've generally fallen back into is like to my layman's eyes, there's enough that the apostles or the writers of the gospels are trying to do with Jesus's life. They're trying to explain some things that I don't think if they were going to make them up whole cloth, they would make up a challenging figure to have to explain away certain things. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it was the criterion of embarrassment, right? It's like if there's something that seems kind of weird about a figure, especially a historical figure or a religious figure, why put that in to start with unless it's already stories going around about it that now you have to deal with? So I think Jesus was a real person. I think Paul was a real person.
Okay, so then what? Let me ask you this then. It's because you believe both of these things. This is actually a step further. So I don't even have to go into that part. So you believe Jesus was a real person and Paul was a real person. So what is it that you deny about Christianity?
So this is fascinating. If you guys ever like, I would love to. I got into biblical scholarship in the last like 6 months to year, and it's been eye opening. And not just for like the atheism Christian debate. Like I would love to talk to you guys about what's Jonah? The story of Jonah, is wild from a scholarship. Someone opened my eyes onto why that book was put in the Bible, and I'd love to talk to you guys about it because it's not even like this disproves God or this confirms God, but there's stuff about that story that I think most Christians will never get because they don't read the scholarship on it, and it is like a banger of a story. But we can talk about that later. To your question, so looking at it, to me, it's pretty clear that the gospel author, especially the synoptic gospels, there are points where they're copying each other word for word. They're using Mark. We can talk about the Q source or is there Markian priority or whatever that. But there's whole sections that are word for word the same. So I'm like, they're definitely copying from a common source or from each other, and that's fine. I also look at it. I'm like, they also seem to have very different views of Jesus. They have very different takes on Jesus and kind of why they added certain things. Like just recently I was learning about like why I think is it Luke that has the wise men come in to see Jesus and like talk about the wise men. I think it's just in Luke. So there's lots of stories that are just in one gospel or the other. And I just found out recently they were saying, a scholar was talking about this. They were like, yeah, Luke was in there because there were debates after Jesus' death, the early church, about was Jesus actually born a man or was he a spirit? Because there was a lot of different takes, and they were like, yeah, they think this part of Luke with the nativity scene with the holy ones coming, the magi, was written later as kind of a way to put a nail and end a debate, being like, listen, these holy people came and saw him born. He was a human. He was not a spirit sent by some other god. And then you start going, oh, this is why they put that in there. This was part of like storytelling and like ways to like settle theological debates that they were having. And to me, that's awesome. That makes a lot more sense. Like, why is it not in the other stories? Where did these guys come from? How do we explain the stars? It was never about that. It was like, no, it was telling one other group, listen, Jesus was a man. That's what we're going with. You don't get to say he was a spirit if three wise men saw him born. So things like that, like for me, I kind of go, it seems more and more the more I learn that Jesus was real. I think he was an apocalyptic preacher. I think he may have studied under John. He may have inherited John's following afterwards, and he ran afoul of Rome once he got into a big city. But overall, I'm seeing so many other influences on these stories that they seem more constructed than historical, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay, yeah. So basically, your problem with Christianity is it seems to be some contradictions with it.
Nah, I used to be into contradictions, but I think there are contradictions, but I don't think contradictions make something false. I mean, I think a lot of like it's more of like a new, maybe the last 100, 200 years where Christians have been worried about contradictions. Before that, they were like, that's not the point. Like let me give you an example. There's some, I don't know the verse, you may know this. There's some verse in the Old Testament that says something like at one point there were 7,000 soldiers, and a different verse says 700. Is that a contradiction? Yes. Does it matter? No. Can it be explained away by a scribe miswriting something? Sure. So contradictions don't bother me as much these days because I don't know of any Christian who's been like, one contradiction ruined my faith in Jesus, right? I don't think even if I convinced you that there was a discrepancy, is that really going to tumble your faith? Probably not. What I want to know is what were the authors doing with these stories and why? Like the audience at the time they were talking to.
I guess I'm a little confused.
Sure.
I'm confused on. I still don't understand what are you denying? Like what are you denying?
Sure.
That's
Gotcha. Okay. So, one, I don't think Jesus was the Messiah according to Old Testament predictions. I don't think a lot of the stories about Jesus were true. I think we can't necessarily trust the authors on what Jesus was saying, and
Why?
because I don't
Why is
believe
that?
Oh, well, this is the reason, right? They treat Jesus very differently. Jesus seems like, I mean, you've heard the talk about is, do you need to do works or do you need to have faith, right? You've heard that discussion in Christianity.
Mhm.
Why are we having that discussion if it's a clear point? Because people can point to different authors putting words in the mouth of Jesus or God or anything in the Bible, and sometimes they disagreed. I don't think the Bible is univocal. So I think different authors have different takes, and there's always been a tension there between the different things that,
You're
Jesus said.
talking,
Like,
you're
let me
talking
get this.
about the different works versus faith?
Well, yeah,
Or
or that argument, or like, let me get this. Like, are you a Trinitarian? Do you guys believe there's a Trinity?
yes.
Mhm.
Right. I don't think there's any Trinity in the Bible to be found. I think that's a post-biblical thing. I think there's plenty of places we can look and say, whether it's, Matthew saying that all authority has in heaven and earth has been given to me by the Father. And I'm like, well, if the Father gave it to you, you didn't have it. And if you have a Father, the Father has to exist before the Son. Like, I think there's all this stuff I can say, like, I don't believe in the Trinity. And by the way, I
So
just
I
learned,
can explain that briefly.
oh, oh, sure. Real quick. I just learned that there's like Unitarians. There's people who are
Yeah.
Christians but don't believe in the Trinity, and I never really looked into that. So I was like, wow,
Yeah,
okay, that's interesting.
there's some
Yeah,
Unitarian
yeah, yeah.
believers out there, but I wouldn't call them Christians necessarily.
That's not for me to say, man. I'm not going to jump into saying who's Christian and who's not. But to your point, like there's things like that I feel I kind of go, hey, and add in like the Greek stories that seem to have influenced the New Testament writers. I just go, this is not convincing to me that this guy was a Messiah or God.
Okay. So, what you're stating is you're just not convinced that he's God. That's your that's
Mhm.
basically what it is.
Yeah, or the Messiah, because some people think he may have been like not God but was the Messiah. I don't think he was the Messiah either. So
Yeah, so throughout the Bible, they both are one and the same. Meaning, in the Old Testament, they're stating in the Old Testament that the Messiah is going to come as God.
do you
So
have
the one of them, like basically, the Messiah can't exist as not being God, and God coming down in the flesh can't exist as not being the Messiah. In the Old Testament, it teaches that the Messiah is the fleshly God.
Do you have a quote for that? I firmly believe that's what you believe, but I've never heard any Jewish authors like talk about the Messiah
Well,
as has to be God
Jewish,
or
you would have to actually look at because there's two types of Jews, right? So you have Jews and then you have Messianic Jews. Those are two different types. So if
sure.
you're looking at the sources from just regular Jews, you're not going to find it because they believe Jesus was blasphemous. Because the reason they believe Jesus was blasphemous is because he claimed to be God. Versus if you have Messianic Jews, like people like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they will be considered Messianic Jews because they're ethnic Jews, but they believe in Christ as the Messiah. So there's two different types.
Right. I meant more like in the past. Like, do we have any writings of like Jewish authors, like pre-Babylon, post-Babylon, that were talking about like the Messiah is going to be divine or God? Like, was it an expectation of like people, 800 years or 800 BCE or 1400 BCE or even like 200 or 300 BCE that the Messiah in the Jewish culture had to be God, or was that just we're talking about it now post Christianity?
I'll show you.
Sure.
While he looks that up, I wanted to, because the way that I talk about God, the Bible, in like regular terms is more along the lines of intelligible, right? So I can study scholars and I can look into different sources and then I can consume the information, but my preference is to speak about it as just regular folks, right?
Sure.
And so when I'm listening to you, and just correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that the relationships that the disciples have to Christ are different. They're the way they treat them and the way they treat him and interact with him.
Yeah, the authors seem to have different points that they're making as they have Jesus talking to people, or they have certain things Jesus does or doesn't do. Mm-hmm. It seems like they have an intent, they have an audience, and I think like it's not uncommon to say that Matthew is writing to like more of a Jewish audience. Maybe Luke was writing more to a Greek audience. So I think they had intentions in the way that they presented Jesus.
You have an example of this that
Yeah.
that you see? Okay, while you pull that up, we'll pull up the source that Malik was looking up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So okay, are you familiar with the Book of Daniel?
Oh, not as a scholar. I know
No,
of
I'm
it.
saying like you know that that's Old Testament.
Yeah,
Right.
it was. I think it was. God, it was. If memory serves, scholars think it was written by over a couple hundred years by different authors. They break it up, and the last of it is a famous like dream sequence where they're talking about different nations and the statues. So yeah, I'm broadly familiar with Daniel.
Okay, so the Book of Daniel is in the Old Testament, not the New Testament.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me show you this. Oops. In the Book of Daniel, it says, I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
He came to the Ancient of Days. And anyone who knows the Old Testament and anyone who knows as a scholar, if anyone who's identified as the Ancient of Days is only God, Yahweh. In the Old Testament, only person who could be identified as the Ancient of Days, because he's considered eternal, is God himself. So Daniel here is stating that one like the Son of Man is coming down from the clouds of heaven, and he came to the Ancient of Days. This is describing that the Son of Man is the Messiah, and he's coming down as God.
Wait. Real quick. It's not the Son of Man. It's one like the Son of Man. It's not the Son of Man.
No, it's coming down with the clouds of heaven.
Oh,
And
no, I agree. But the
he
Son of
came-
Man isn't coming down. It says one like the Son of Man. So he's
Coming
saying,
down.
hey, you know the Son of Man? Something like the Son of Man is coming down in the
No,
clouds
that's-
of heaven.
The context here is because Daniel is before Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so the context here is pre incarnation.
Yeah. But it's not the Son of Man they're talking about. It says, and behold, one like the Son of Man.
Okay,
so if I
so who's
let
he
me
talking about?
give an example. If I said
I'm saying if he's not talking about the Son of Man, who is he talking about?
so my understanding is it's actually the angels. It's actually because my
No,
understanding
that
is
that would be considered blasphemy.
Well, let me see if I can finish. So my understanding is that different cities had different angels attached to different nations, and I can look it up. I'm not super familiar, but the idea is that you were watched over by certain angels, and that as part of the end times, there was going to be a battle between the angels, and so I think some scholars are leaning towards that this was talking about. I don't know the names of the angels. You might know them better, Michelangelo, all this stuff. But even in this verse, like it says one like something. They didn't say the Son of Man is coming down in the clouds. It said one like the Son of Man. In the same way that I might say like, let's say Spider-Man. If someone says Spider-Man's coming to town, or if someone says one like Spider-Man is coming to town, that means it's not Spider-Man, it's someone else. So whoever this is, and that's why I think it's an angel. They're like, hey, there's a being like the Son of Man coming before Yahweh. And I think we read on, it might confirm that, but like we're both reading one like something. It's not saying Son of Man.
That's the issue. That's the issue right there. Why I said this will be blasphemy, because an angel is creation. So no angel could come down like God.
Wait, what?
It would be blasphemy to say. You just said if this is an angel, right? It would be considered in the Old Testament blasphemy because angels are creation.
Yeah.
So to come down like Yahweh is blasphemy if they're an angel.
Wait, but it's not like Yahweh. It's like the Son of Man. The Son of Man.
No, they said in the Ancient of Days is Yahweh. He's the only one with that title.
Yeah, but the verse just said coming to see Yahweh, right?
No, it says coming. Let me go back.
Yeah, just check it real quick. But my point is like this says like one like something, so it's obviously not the Son of Man.
He came to the Ancient of Days.
He came to God. So an angel came to God.
Okay, let me give you another verse since that's not suffice for you. Let me.
Oh no,
I got multiple verses.
I hope. Yeah, no, I understand, but like I hope you understand. Like when someone says like X is like Y, we know that it's not Y. It's just like Y. That's all I was trying to say.
I got another verse for you. I'm pulling it up.
Okay, sure. And by the way, this is fascinating. When I was learning about like the angels and how they were associated with different like nations, and there's going to be an angel throwdown, it got wild when I was learning about this stuff.
Oh, following. Did you have that like an example of what you were talking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about it. I may not have a great answer for you, but I will make a note of that because then I don't want to say something and then not have an example. I may have to think about it.
Okay. Well, maybe because when we get on again, maybe we'll speak again. You have thought about it at that time. But
Yeah.
what I have come to understand is sometimes when we interpret different writers and different people, because we're reading something biblical that is like the word of God, we
Mm-hmm.
sometimes take away like human aspects in that. And
Oh
so
yeah.
when I think about like for instance, Matthew says he talks about marriage, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
says a woman or you can divorce your wife or wait, let me make sure I'm saying it right.
Yeah,
You
I
can
know.
basically
You're talking about
you
Mark
can
and
basically
Matthew.
get divorced if there is an adultery, like
Mm-hmm.
right, like you can get divorced. And then Luke said, but Matthew includes the word except. So he says like, Malik, how did it go? Quote the verse for me?
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about Mark or are you talking about
Matthew says except. He says
Matthew? Matthew says, he says, you cannot divorce except for sexual immorality.
Okay.
right. So it's
And
something along the line
Mark said doesn't use the word except sexual
except,
immorality.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to misquote it. But yeah, like there's a difference in the diction and the way that they talk about this matter. The matter is still the same in essence, right? But because Tashay's talking versus Malik is speaking, he might use the word accept or have a different view or perspective of a specific event.
Mm-hmm.
And does that mean that that event did not occur, or does it mean that the different
You ready?
perspectives that we share
Are you ready?
make a contradiction within the event? Or if we're speaking about the same person, maybe my view of this person is different because my relationship and connection to them is different. Like I'm talking about like a human connection because Jesus is human. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Are you asking that like?
Yeah, I'm asking like, is your perspective, have you considered that the relationship between these authors in Christ is different, which is why they are delivering a message in different essences, but with the same perspective of what happened?
Oh yeah. So
Whenever
make
you're
sure
ready, I have two verses for him.
Oh yeah, I'll jump back there in a second. So to make sure I steelman your question correctly, you're basically saying like, hey, different people would have different relationships with Jesus, so they would have seen him, talked with him in slightly different ways. So we may
Right.
have different. Oh yeah, that's entirely possible. I have no issue with that. I think an example I'll give you though is like when we talk about are these things like witnesses. I think what's the prayer when Jesus, I think it's right before his crucifixion, he goes out and he's talking to God and the apostles are sleeping, right? Do you know
Are
that
you talking
story?
about when he's talking about let this cup pass from me?
Yeah. He's by himself. There's no one awake with him, but the author is writing as if he was invisibly there listening to every word Jesus said. So for me, that makes me go, hey, these were not eyewitness accounts all the time, maybe partially if you want to say that, but at the very least, there's times like when Jesus is alone that we're getting what he's saying out loud to God with none of the apostles or disciples there, which
Is
means
that an issue?
only in the sense of like, I think we have to go, somebody's writing this and they weren't there, so it's not an eyewitness account. Now, maybe
but
Jesus
it's
told
like,
them later.
okay, I'll give you an example. If
Sure.
if Alwyn says, man, today I had a hard day, I went through this, I went through this, I went through this, right? And then you go home and talk to your wife about this and say, hey, this happened to me, this happened to me today, and this happened to me today, and you know, it was a tough day. And then she writes about it. Should I automatically say she's not a valid source because it didn't come directly from you?
Oh no, we just say that like we're taking it secondhand, and that's fine too. I got no problem with secondhand accounts.
Yeah. Okay, let me show you. Let me show him the two verses. So
Sure,
I'm going to show you Zechariah and I'm going to show you Isaiah. These are both Old Testament.
I've been doing more in Isaiah, so yeah, let's see it.
Okay, so it says, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion.
Right.
Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. He
Sure.
is just in having salvation." And we know only God can give out salvation. "Lowly in riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey." That's Zechariah. So Zechariah is talking about a king is coming, and he is just, and he's handing out salvation.
Wait. What do you mean handing out? It says he's having salvation. He's been saved, or it doesn't say he's giving out salvation.
No, salvation means he carries salvation.
Well, he has salvation, but he's not giving it out like God.
No. He is just in having salvation means he's carrying it. That's the context. The context is he's carrying salvation with him.
Okay, but that's something that seems like a person could do, but
A person can't hand out salvation. That's only given to the title of Yahweh.
Okay, hold on. I guess I'm confused. You said you said he wasn't giving out salvation, which is something only Yahweh can do. You said he has salvation.
No, I said he's carrying salvation with him.
Okay, but that doesn't mean he's giving it out. Like I'm just confused. Like he is so this is a king. This is Israel saying a king is coming to rule over Israel.
Do you walk around saying you give out salvation?
No.
Do you walk around saying you have salvation?
Well, I'm an atheist, so no. Christians might say they have salvation. You have salvation,
have
right? But you don't give it out.
Have you heard of a Christian walking around saying, I have salvation for people?
No, but Christian, like as a person, you have salvation, right? You've been saved.
No, I don't have salvation. I'm giving it.
You give salvation to people?
It's given to me.
You're receiving salvation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's been given to you.
I don't have salvation. It's given to me.
Okay. But this doesn't say giving. This says has salvation.
It says having.
Yeah, so he has salvation.
So he's carrying it.
Okay.
I'm saying that's the context. Let me give you one that's even better.
Wait, hold on. Wait, one second. Like this is not about a Messiah here. You know that, right? This is about Israel.
The coming king.
Yeah, there's going to be a king that's going to rule over Israel.
And he's having salvation.
Yeah, so but this isn't a.
Okay, since it's not the Messiah, who's the king?
Wait, I'm sorry. It may be the Messiah, but it's not someone divine. I'm not. I guess I'm confused about like where you think this person is divine.
Okay, I'll give you Isaiah. This is going to show you.
I like Isaiah.
Huh?
I like Isaiah. Isaiah is a wild ride. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you Isaiah. Isaiah says in 9:6-7,
Mm-hmm.
He says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace."
Mm-hmm.
Who is Mighty God?
I mean, I think probably Yahweh. Yeah.
And he's saying that this son that is given to us will have this name.
Yeah.
So who is that?
It might be the Messiah.
Yeah, but
so the Messiah is a man and God at the same time, is what he's saying.
No, he's giving a name that has these kind of names to it, like theophoric names.
This is blasphemy. That's
no,
what I'm trying to explain to you.
Well, hold on. So
Isaiah is a Jew. He's an ethnic Jew. So to call a man mighty God is blasphemy.
What's the prophet who in Isaiah, was it 47? Some Christians thinks about it's a virgin birth. What's the one that talks to Hezekiah? Do you remember that prophet?
Are you talking about
prophet for
where he's
Hezekiah?
Talking about it'll be upon he'll be on your heel? Are you talking about Isaiah 53?
Might be. I'm trying. What was that? There was a prophet that talked to Hezekiah. Was like, hey, there's a woman who's pregnant. By the time her kid knows right from wrong. But what was the name of the prophet? Was it prophet Hezekiah? Was it prophet? No.
Hezekiah, King Hezekiah.
Yeah, there's King Hezekiah. Who was the prophet that told him about the woman who's pregnant? They had a couple kids. They had theophoric names.
Yeah, but that's besides that. That's kind of the point. You said that the Messiah doesn't necessarily mean he's God, and that the God doesn't necessarily mean he's a man.
No, yeah. So
when a verse from Isaiah where he says a child is going to be born, and he's a son, so this means he's a male, and his name is going to be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and these are titles of Yahweh. So he's saying that this child that is a son that's going to be born, he's everlasting. And he is the mighty God.
Yeah. So my point was that, from my understanding, prophets often have names that are theophoric. They describe
not names with titles of Yahweh. Never.
Yeah. No. That's what I'm saying. They do. In fact, I'm trying to find this.
Never. They never do. They never ever have titles of Yahweh. Yahweh is the only one who is everlasting because he's eternal. There's no prophet. Any prophet, you cannot find it. I promise you. There's not one prophet. If they're speaking about everlasting, first at the very beginning, they always say, "Thus says the Lord," and then they speak. But never ever will you ever see a prophet speaking for God without saying, "Thus says the Lord" first. Never.
Right. My point was, I'm trying to find this prophet, and I'd love for you guys to help me. So what was it? Isaiah. I'll do virgin birth prophecy. Although I know
But
it wasn't about a virgin birth.
who is this? Who is this? Who is this son? Who is this man who's being called everlasting Father and mighty God?
One second. Because I want to address first thing like theophoric names. But I'm just trying to find the name of this prophet. King Ahaz. Who gave the prophecy to King Ahaz in Isaiah 7:14? What was the prophet's name? Was it Isaiah? No, it wasn't. Was it?
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Let me look
Isaiah
this
is a
up.
prophet.
Yeah.
But
So
Isaiah
Ahaz.
is never given the title of everlasting Father. Never.
No, it's Hezekiah. No, I'm trying to find. I want to pull this up because I want to give you like the actual information. Name.
There's not
biblical
one prophet who's
name,
there's not one
name,
prophet who's given the
strength,
title of everlasting Father. Not one.
strength. Guys, names. Okay, so Ezekiel in classic Hebrew, name means God strengthens, strength of God. God is my strength.
That doesn't mean everlasting Father. Everlasting
so-
Father means they're talking about someone eternal. When they say everlasting Father, they're speaking about someone who's eternal, because everlasting means eternal. There's not one prophet who has the title of everlasting.
What my point was.
Off. My bad, Fallon. I'm gonna drop off. I gotta go to Bible study. But
Okay.
Yeah, go. Yeah,
I'll see you guys later. Bye.
take care. Yeah. So my point was these names don't have to apply to the person literally. They're names given to him, like wonderful counselor. Does that mean like, what does it mean to be wonderful or a counselor? These seem to be names that are given to.
You're skipping over the main part. The main part is mighty God. We're not really talking about the wonderful counselor part. We're talking about a man being called God.
I don't know when they say his name will be called something. Like, so here's my thing. If someone says his name will be called something, to me that means like Justin, right? Justin is based off justice. So if you called someone Justice, you might name them Justin. You're giving them a name that seems to have a religious meaning or something like that, but it doesn't mean that someone named Justin is justice or someone named Wrath is the personification of this. So does this mean that it's God, or does it mean they're giving him names that are akin to God or holy names?
No, that's why I said it's important to understand who we're talking about, right? Because we're talking about ethnic Jews, not just everyday people. We're talking about ethnic Jews who are writing scriptures that they hold upon very seriously, meaning they'll even stone you for doing blasphemous things. And we have Isaiah, who is a prophet of the Jews, who's a prophet for God, who's writing something stating that there is a man to be born, and there he's calling him mighty God. This would be considered blasphemous if he was not talking about a God.
1 second. Establishing holy justice and righteousness. Okay. I'm looking at the verses ahead and behind because I always like to check out like what is said prior to this to make sure I'm understanding. Okay, so words moving file. For a child born, to us a child is given. He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Yeah. I mean, unless there's some aspect of this, I don't see why they would think he would be God, because that does seem a little weird. His names will be this. I have to just check and say, like, when it says his names will be this, why say it that way instead of just saying he is going to be Yahweh? Well,
you're reading it in the English, right? So this was originally written in Hebrew.
Hebrew, yeah.
Yeah. So these words are actually in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew, is you're going to find it as Yahweh or Elohim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. So you're saying when it says mighty God, it says Elohim?
Let me show you.
Mighty God.
Look at this. Let me show you. You see this?
Let me see.
Okay. So this is the Hebrew. This is the linear, right? Right here, you have El, which in Hebrew is God. And then right here, where our translation in English is everlasting Father, in the Hebrew, it actually means eternal. So they're calling, look right here. It actually means eternal. Oh, you can't see it. Let me
No, it's fine. I believe you.
see right here. Look, this word actually means eternal and mighty God, Father. So this is the Hebrew. When in the Hebrew, they're calling him an eternal God. This son that's going to be born, they're calling him an eternal, right here, an eternal God.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'll look into it. Like I said, the reason I brought up the theophoric names is because in Isaiah, there's a couple places where they name their kids things like, oh God, what was it? Like Emmanuel, God is with us, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that that child was God. It was around the promise of Isaiah to help King Ahaz. So, and they also said that like with Egyptian names, I guess scholars used to think that the Egyptians thought like we were presupposing that because the Egyptian pharaohs had the names of like Ra and like theophoric names that they were divine, but really they found out later, no, it's just a way of using language, naming a kid after aspects of God to sort of like say they're going to have a great future. So I'll look into this. I got no problem looking into it. I'm not really convinced because after that, the verse you showed me, what was it, Isaiah 7? Or Isaiah 6 was it, right? That's where a child is born. Like Isaiah 7 goes on to say he's going to reign on David's throne, upholding justice and rightnesses.
And if you look at the lineage, if you look at the lineage of Jesus, he's a descendant of David.
Oh no, he's not. He's not a descendant of David at all. No.
How do you know?
I looked at the genealogies. The problem is that no one, Mary, if she was a virgin, I mean, maybe you don't think Mary's a virgin, but if Mary's a virgin, she never lied with Joseph, and Joseph also would be, I think, so he can't from Joseph.
So who's his genealogy?
Oh, I mean, if you look at, well, it disagrees. I think is it Luke and Matthew who do the genealogies?
You made a statement. You made a claim and said he's not a descendant of David. So this means that you have a source of saying.
Oh yeah. So
who's his lineage?
So we both agree that like he didn't come from Joseph, right? He can't go through Joseph's line, right? Because Joseph never had sex with Mary to produce Jesus, so he can't be of the flesh of David, right? We agree.
Well, Jesus is flesh. He didn't need a man to be conceived.
No, sorry. What I meant was like he can't trace his genetic line to David through Joseph because Joseph did not have sex with Mary, right? So there was no sperm, there was no DNA transfer. He can't track his line to David through Joseph, right? Because Mary never had sex with Joseph, right?
Yeah. What is that?
Okay, so we have to say that like it doesn't matter if Joseph goes back to David. Jesus can't be a descendant of David because Joseph never had sex with Mary, right? So it has to be through Mary's line, I guess. That goes back to David. That would be the only option, right? I'm just checking with you to make sure we're on the same page.
No, Joseph and Mary are married.
Right, but he's not a direct descendant of King David.
I didn't say direct. I said he is a descendant of. Meaning
through adoption. It's like he's been adopted. He's been adopted into the house.
No, not even necessarily adopted. If you are married to someone, your family becomes their family. This is how it even works today. If you are married, this is your aunt, this is your aunt. You have two aunts on both sides. That's how it works, even to this day. So once you become one flesh, when people get married, they become one flesh. So now your family is his family and her family is your family. That's exactly how it's always worked since the beginning of time, even to this day.
So your view is that like it does like we don't, as long as like Joseph or Mary or Joseph, if Joseph was a descendant of David, then it's okay that he didn't actually produce the child in question.
Correct. Because he's married. He Mary and Joseph are married.
Right, but I guess that makes me wonder, like, is that how it works? Like, can you show me any example where a king, like, of David's stature, there was a child that they did not produce that inherited the throne through marriage?
I'll give you a perfect example. He's one of the most notorious people in the Bible. Solomon, King Solomon, the wisest man in the Bible. He did not come directly from King David's wife. He came from a concubine, and he inherited the throne.
Right, but he was the flesh of David, though. Like, concubine means that, like, David had sex with the concubine, right?
Now you're changing the premise. You said, give you an example of someone who was not a direct descendant that
Yeah.
that came into the throne. Solomon was not a direct descendant of his wife. They were married. King David and his wife, they were married, but he had a baby outside of her. But this man, Solomon, inherited the throne over the queen's child.
So real quick, this is just an AI overview, but it says as the son of King David and Bathsheba, he ruled for 40 years. So David did have sex with someone, and then that person was Solomon, right? So there is a flesh blood connection. It was they had. That's what I'm asking. I'm like this seems to imply that David had sex with a woman. That woman gave birth to Solomon, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So I agree with that. Like that's fine. I'm not arguing about that. I'm saying give me an example where a king like David.
Well, I can't give you an example because there's no one like Jesus.
Okay, so yeah, my point is that it seems like in this case with Solomon, he still had to have a bloodline to David. Like there had to be a chainal cause of events. You know, if you said, for example, hey, King David never had sex with the mother of Solomon and he was brought in as king to follow David, I'd be like, you're right. There's no blood connection. They did it through marriage. But in this case, King David had sex with Bathsheba. She gave birth to Solomon. So there was a blood connection there, a semen, egg connection between those. And that's why I'm asking about Jesus. Like, why would we accept Jesus as a son of David or in the heir of David if Joseph never had sex with Mary to produce Jesus?
Because they are married.
That's what I'm saying. Like, show me an example of where a king said, because you're married, like that was enough and you didn't need a blood connection.
Solomon was not a part of the marriage in that kingdom. He was not supposed to inherit that throne because he was not the son of the king and the queen. He was the son of the king outside of the kingdom.
But he was the son of the king. There was a blood connection, right?
Yeah, but he should not. He wasn't supposed to inherit the throne. That doesn't matter. There's not very many examples of concubines that their sons become kings because they're just concubines. They're just concubines, so they're not inheriting any type of kingdom.
Oh no, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying like, sure, you can have someone who's like a bastard son of the king, eventually follows the king, and that's very unusual. I'm okay with that. I'm just saying though, but he was still produced by the loins of David, whereas Jesus wasn't. Jesus has no connection through Joseph to David because there was no sex that produced him. So he's not of the bloodline of Joseph, right?
No, he is, because this is the hard part where it would kind of be hard to understand because you're an atheist, but there's no one like him. So because he wasn't born of both, he's a miracle, right? So because he's a miracle, there's no other examples like him. This is the whole point of why we're stating Jesus is God, because there's no other examples in history like him. No other examples like him.
That's a claim, and I think there's actually a lot of people like Jesus, but I don't want to argue with you on that. I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out like.
So you know a lot of people who claim to be born of virgins?
He was never a virgin. It was.
How do you know? Were you there?
No. I just.
And you can't say you know for sure.
So I'll say this: I'm fairly confident he was not born of a virgin.
Based off of what?
There is no prophecy about the Messiah being born of a virgin, and
it's in the Old Testament.
No, it's if you're looking at Isaiah 7,
which was written 1,000+ years before Jesus.
Isaiah 7 says a young woman is pregnant, and it's also not about a Messiah. So
what do you mean it's not about a Messiah?
Have you? So this is a cool one. All right, was it Isaiah 7? Is that the virgin birth story? Virgin birth. Let's bring it up. We'll walk through it. Isaiah 7.
Isaiah 7:14. Therefore, the Lord Himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel.
Sure, that's an incorrect translation. Oh, are you using King James? Come on, don't be using King James.
Based off of what?
All right, here I'll pull it up for you.
Based off of what?
Sure. So the Hebrew says that it is a young woman that is pregnant, not will be pregnant. Let me bring up
who said that?
The Hebrew Masoretic text. I think also look up the Hebrew bring up a Hebrew Bible and you can look at it. It'll say the young virgin, the young woman. It's not even virgin. They don't use, was it Bethula? I'm going to massacre. As someone who's Jewish is going to get so mad at me. It doesn't use the word for virgin. It's based off the Septuagint, which
what source are you using?
Sure. Let me pull it up right now. I'll put it up for you. No, not Bible Hub. What is it? What's the other Bible one?
I'm using the Hebrew here. It says right here.
Yeah. Alma. Ha-alma is young woman, the maiden. So it's the maiden is pregnant. Now, the reason it says virgin is because they use
where do you see is?
Sure. Let me bring it up for a second. What's it? No, it's not Bible Hub. Bible Gateway. 1 second. I'll pull this up. Yeah, the KJV really butchered this. Let me bring this up. I use the NSR. I use the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition just because it seems like it's a really good version. Let me see here. Let me see. What verse is that we were talking about? Isaiah. Okay, so using this translation, it says, look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse the good, evil and choose the good. So, and this makes sense because the Lord, the prophet is telling Ahaz, hey, there's a timeline on how long it's going to take for you to be rescued. And so look at this woman, she's pregnant. Before her child knows good and evil, your enemies are going to be wiped out. So it's not about a future it's not about a future person, it's about a woman there because they have to know how long this is going to take. And so, yeah. So shall become pregnant, right?
Who's the son? Who's this baby?
Oh, that's the prophet's son, Emmanuel.
Who is he?
Oh, he's the son of the prophet, and his birth is assigned to King Ahaz of when the enemies are going to be wiped out. So it's a timeline. It's like a ticking clock.
So you're saying this one that's being spoke about here is Isaiah's son?
Yeah, because he has another son after that. And in fact, if you go to a few more verses, it says that the prophet had sex with the prophetess.
Where'd you get that source from?
Sure, it's two more down. So let's go.
No, I'm saying, who told you that this is Isaiah's son?
God, I'll forget the scholar. I'll have to pull it up. I'll pull this up real quick. So we're asking. The question was, is Emmanuel the son of the prophet Isaiah? Let's see. God with us. It's not that. Oh, God, I'll have to pull it up. But like, it's not. But this isn't a prophet about the Messiah, right? This isn't about Jesus.
Then who is it?
It's about Emmanuel, the boy in the story, the woman who's given.
Where's Emmanuel?
Okay, so maybe we're reading. Let's go back to Isaiah. So we go to Isaiah 7, right? And it says, so in the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, blah, 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 there's a problem here. The Lord said to Isaiah, go out and meet Ahaz, that's King Ahaz, you and your son, Shir Jashub. So that's already, Isaiah's got a son. He says, at the end of the conduit, blah, blah, blah. And then he gives the prophecy. Thus says the Lord, it shall not stand and it shall not come to pass, for the head of Aram is Damascus and the head of Damascus is Rezin. Blah, blah. So he's giving a statement of things. He says, if you do not stand firm in faith, you shall not stand at all. And then we get to verse 10. Isaiah gives Ahaz the sign of Emmanuel. So this is Isaiah giving a sign to King Ahaz. That's what this is. It says, again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, as a sign of the Lord your God, let it be deep as Sheol or high as heaven. Ahaz is like, nope, I'm not going to put the Lord to the test. Isaiah gets annoyed. He's like, come on, dudes. Like, is it too much to ask you to worry me? So he gives a prophecy. He says, therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Now, who's he talking to? King Ahaz. The Lord is going to give King Ahaz a sign. Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. So this woman is going to have a child and she's going to name him Emmanuel. Well, what's going to happen? He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse evil and choose the good. So about a couple years old before he knows right from wrong. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, so we have a timeline. The woman's pregnant. She's going to give birth to a kid named Emmanuel. Before that kid knows right from wrong, the land before you, whose two kings you are in dread, will be deserted. The Lord will bring on you and your people and on your ancestral houses such days have not come since the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. So this is a prophecy to King Ahaz. Hey, you've got trouble. See this woman? She's going to give birth. The kid's name is Emmanuel, and before that kid knows right from wrong, your enemies are going to be taken care of.
You just stated that this is a prophecy, right?
To King Ahaz, yeah, it's a prophecy to King Ahaz in this book from Isaiah.
So a prophecy means it hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah, it says here, like, this woman's is pregnant. By the time her kid is old enough to know right from wrong, your enemies will be destroyed.
I'm just establishing that this is a prophecy, something that hasn't happened yet.
Oh no! I mean, it's long since happened. Like, this is in the past, right? This is, remember, it's like it says at this time the prophet is giving the prophecy to who? King Ahaz. This happened in King Ahaz's lifetime. It's long over now.
No. I'm talking about when he gave this to him, it hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, the woman had not have the kid yet.
Okay. So who was Emmanuel?
This woman's kid. It tells you.
Who is Emmanuel? If he's the prophet's son, he has to be important. So where is he?
It's in the story.
Where else is he?
I have no earthly idea. Oh, I don't know if he's mentioned again.
That's my point.
Why?
My point is this is not about the prophet's son.
Let's say aside. Let's say it's not the prophet's son. Let's say it's a random woman who's pregnant. That's fine. The reason scholars say it might be, they think it could be his son, is because it says that in a few verses later, there's another kid who has a name like this, and it says the prophet went into the prophetess. Oh, this is a great name. Let me pull it up. You're gonna love this. Here. So look at number 8. Look at chapter 8.
I just want to know who is the son.
Oh, it's great. So his other son. There's like 3. He has 3 kids. This is the next son in the following verse. All right, you got chapter 8? Great. So the Lord said to me, take a large tablet and write the common characters belonging to, and this is the kid's name, Maher Shalaz Hashbaz, and have it attested for me by reliable witnesses.
I thought you said his name was Emmanuel.
No, this is a different kid. Like, this is a different kid. Look
at
this.
I'm asking about Emmanuel.
It's a kid named Emmanuel, dude. I don't know what to tell you. That's all the story says. It's a kid named Emmanuel. Do you know what Emmanuel means?
Yes, God with us.
Yeah, because that's the promise that the prophet gave to Ahaz. God's going to be with you. So it's a name meaning what God was going to do for King Ahaz. Just like this name, this is wild. Do you know what Mahar Shalaz Hashbaz means?
No, he's speaking. He's prophesying about the Messiah.
No, he's look at this.
How do we know? So then who's this? So then we have another son that Isaiah is mentioning about that's going to be called Mighty God. Who's that? Is that Emmanuel too?
Where do you mean? Where's that quote from?
In Isaiah.
Pull it up.
I just pulled it up for you already. Let me go back for you again.
Oh, I'm talking about this one prophecy to King Ahaz.
Yeah, so Isaiah's talking about a different guy then, right? He's talking about a different son.
Oh yeah, this is nothing to do with King Ahaz's prophecy.
I'm talking about who is the son.
Oh, I have no earthly idea.
That's my point. My point is you're stating and making a claim saying this can't be the Messiah, but now you're saying you have no idea. That's my point. My point is you can't make a claim and say, no, it can't be this.
Oh, no. I think this, no. Isaiah 9:6-7, that very well may be about the Messiah. I'm just saying King Ahaz is, like the prophecy to King Ahaz is not about the Messiah, clearly.
You just said you have no idea.
Wait. No, I said, like, listen, in Isaiah 9:6-7, right here, this thing, for a child is born, a son is given. This could be about a Messiah. I've got no problem with that.
How do you know that this son, okay, let's go back to 7. How do you know this son here, Emmanuel, is not the same son here? How do you know?
Because he lived during King Ahaz's time.
Who? Then who is he? If he lived there, I'm asking who is he? And you haven't said where he's at. Where is he located? Where is he mentioned? If he lived, how do you know?
Oh, wait. So what I'm saying is this person in Isaiah 6:7 is not the same kid in Isaiah 7.
How do you know?
Because this is really weird. So let's just read the story one more time, right? The Lord said to Isaiah, go out and meet King Ahaz. So who is the Lord talking to? Who is the prophecy given to in Isaiah 7? It's King Ahaz, right? Do we agree on that?
That still doesn't answer the question.
I'm trying to walk you through this because I feel like you're asking a question that doesn't make sense to me. So in Isaiah 7, the prophecy is
you're
the prophecy.
You're avoiding the actual context. Okay. Context is about the son. I don't care about Ahaz. Ahaz has nothing to do with the prophecy.
In Isaiah 7, it does.
This is about God with us. He's speaking about Emmanuel. I want to know, where is Emmanuel at? If he's not the same son that's mentioned here,
sure.
This is a different son, and you're saying this is a different son. Where is this son?
I don't know why I'm required to tell you that. That's what I'm confused by.
Because you're stating the reason it's required is because you're making a claim saying it's not this.
Yeah.
But
okay.
You can't point to me where it's at. So that's intellectually dishonest.
I'm trying to do that. Let's try this one more. Let me try one more time. And if you tell me that you just can't understand what I'm saying, we can drop this topic. In Isaiah 7, when I read this, it has the prophet saying, we're going to give a prophecy to King Ahaz about his current political troubles. Do we agree on that? That's what this prophecy is about. The prophet's talking to King Ahaz, right? That's what we agree on, right? This king that actually existed in the past.
Yes, because Isaiah was sent to King Ahaz.
Right. So when he says, hey, there's a woman, she's pregnant, she's going to have a son.
And he didn't just say she was pregnant.
It does.
No, he didn't just say that.
I'll read it again. So
that's what he said.
So it said
he didn't say just she'll be pregnant. He said, behold the virgin. She wasn't
a virgin. It doesn't say virgin.
How do you know?
Because there's a word for virgin in Hebrew, and it's not the one used there, but I think it's Bethula. And it doesn't make sense because look at this.
So
does the virgin wait?
This is why I'm saying we have a.
Does the virgin have a kid? Let's say she's a virgin. Does she have a kid? Does she have a kid?
Having a dishonest conversation.
Does she have a? Carson, does this?
You're using this whole passage to say this passage is justified by this not being the same son as in Isaiah 9, but yet the same passage you're reading here you're saying, well, no, we can't trust that because that word is not right. But the other words are right.
I want to ask you a question. In Isaiah, let's say she's a virgin. I don't think it is. I don't think scholars think it is. But let's say she is. Does she have a kid during the? Just let me finish my thought. Does she have a kid during the lifetime of King Ahaz? Does that child get born?
Who's
the one they call Emmanuel? Does that kid born during the life of King Ahaz?
No.
So this whole prophecy says, therefore the Lord will give you a sign. Who's getting the sign? King Ahaz, right? King Ahaz is getting the sign. Let's say it is virgin. The virgin is going to get pregnant and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. That prophecy, look, the virgin is going to have a kid and call him Emmanuel. That's a sign to King Ahaz, right?
Keep reading.
And no. I just want to ask: is that a sign to King Ahaz?
Yeah, but if you
Ahaz,
let's keep reading.
I will. So we agree that King Ahaz
bring the king of Assyria upon you and your people and your father's house, days that have not come since that day.
So Ahaz has to see this kid born for the prophecy to make sense.
No, he doesn't. Who says who?
Therefore, the Lord will give. Hold on.
The father's house.
The Lord is going to give Ahaz a sign. So Ahaz has to receive that sign, right? He has to.
No, the house of Ahaz has to receive this.
No. It doesn't say that. It says Ahaz said, the Lord himself said, I will give you a sign. The you is Ahaz. He's talking to Ahaz about Ahaz's political problems. That's the whole point of this, right? Ahaz is being attacked by other nations. That's why the prophet's here, to assure him that he is going to be taken care of. The prophecy is the king Ahaz.
So who? What I'm
asking. So wait, we agree, right? It's to King Ahaz, right?
No, the message is to King Ahaz, but
the prophecy is to King Ahaz.
But it doesn't mean he has to see it.
So you're telling me that God is going to give a sign to King Ahaz, and then Ahaz is not going to be alive to see it.
Ahaz is a king, correct?
Yes, he's a king.
Therefore, if Ahaz is let's say great grandson sees this day. Does that means this is still the house of Ahaz, correct?
Sure, but that
So
wasn't
then
to. The prophecy was to.
It's still
You're
being
changing the words.
I'm not
You're
changing
the words. Now you're saying like,
no. The problem is you don't understand the context of how they speak. That's the point of prophecy. They don't speak prophecy. They don't speak in sense of right now. They speak in future tense.
so
For
I'm
example,
looking at verse turn. It says, again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz. Ask a sign of your God. So Ahaz is the one who's getting the sign. Or is this wrong? Is the Bible not being truthful when it says, ask us, when Lord spoke to Ahaz, ask a sign of your Lord, anything you want. God is speaking to Ahaz, saying, ask for a sign. And you're telling me this is wrong. It was actually about Ahaz's great grandkids, and we're going to ignore the political problems that Ahaz was having, the whole reason for the prophecy, the multi-year deadline. We're going to ignore all of that. That seems really like you are making this text fit something you want it to fit.
No,
because now we don't care about Ahaz.
No, you're making it fit something that you want, which is why you're not answering the question, who is Emmanuel?
Dude, he was
You're
just,
making
he was the kid in this story.
You're making this about Ahaz, and I'm talking about Emmanuel. So
who was the prophecy to?
Where is
Ahaz? And the kid was named Emmanuel. That's all we know about him. So why are you asking me who was it more? It was just a kid named Emmanuel.
Because Isaiah is the prophet.
Yeah.
So Isaiah is mentioning multiple times about a son who's going to have the title of God. Multiple times.
But that's not this kid.
How do you know?
Because it was to King Ahaz. And the kid was born during the lifetime of King Ahaz.
How do you know that this kid was born during his lifetime? You can't
because it tells us so. So
it tells us where he's born?
Yeah, so I'll tell you right now. So it says,
where is he?
It says
okay.
So it says so let me bring this up. Dun, dun, dun. Make sure I jumped ahead one verse. All right. So Isaiah gives Ahaz the sign of Emmanuel. All right. So it says, therefore the Lord will give you a sign to King Ahaz. Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. Now, who knows? Maybe it's 1,000 years in the future. But then it says, he shall eat curds and honey, and by the time he knows how to refuse evil and choose the good. Okay, so this kid is going to be alive. He's going to eat. At some point, he's going to know how to choose evil and good. Then it says, for before the child knows how to refuse evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted. So Ahaz is dreading these two kings, and it's saying that before this kid knows how to refuse evil and choose good, so a couple years old maybe, the land before whose kings you are in dread will be deserted. So if the kid is 1,000 years in the future, this prophecy makes no sense whatsoever. Right? It is saying by the time this kid who's alive knows right from wrong, Ahaz, the kings you dread are going to be gone.
You still aren't answering what I'm talking about.
What do you mean? The kid's alive during Ahaz's reign.
How do you know?
I think we've reached a point where I don't think I can discuss this any further because the prophecy says that before the kid's 2 years old, before the prophecy says, right, we agree, before the kid is a couple years old, it says here the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted. Right?
It said before he's a couple years old.
So before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. I assume they mean the kid knows right from wrong.
See what I'm saying? That's my point. You said I'm changing it for something that I want.
So what does that mean?
You're changing it.
How old is a kid when he knows how to refuse evil and choose good? How old is that?
Give you a timeline.
Okay. So at some point this child is going to exist. And it says before he knows how to choose right from wrong, the two kings that you dread will be gone.
So again, there's this prophecy is more about the child because it's the timeline is based off of the child, correct?
Yeah, he's only a timeline. Okay. That's all he is.
So where is the son in the timeline? Because
What do you mean?
he has to be important because they're mentioning him as a timeline. So where is this Emmanuel guy?
He's born. That's the whole thing. He's just born here.
Where
Like
is
you, wait. Why do you think he has to? Like, listen to this. Let's say they said, hey, the kid's name is Emmanuel. He's going to be born, and by the time he knows right from wrong, your political situation is solved. That's all we need to know about the story. We don't need to know anything else about the kid.
No, you just said he's a timeline.
Yeah,
so we have to know when he's born and the time he knows to refuse evil and choose good. We have to know this in order for this prophecy to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
So where is he in the timeline? Where? Who is
so he? At the very beginning,
we would have to know where Emmanuel is by the time he's this age.
At the very beginning, it tells us. So it says here, let me pull it up. Okay, so verse 14, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. So the woman's pregnant at the time. She's going to have a kid within 9 months, assuming it follows normal human practices, right? And then by the time that kid knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, I think most people...
It didn't just say a woman, this verse.
You're using the New King James. That's not what scholars say, but I'm not going to argue with that on that. And before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. So as a plain reading, I think that means right from wrong, which I would guess is a certain age. The land before whose two kings you are deserted.
Matters, right?
No, it's a couple years, dude. It doesn't really matter.
It does matter because the prophecy that you're saying is to King Ahaz.
Yeah.
It's based off of the timeline of this child's age. So where can I find Emmanuel at the timeline where he's past the age of refusing?
I have no idea, man. It's not in the story.
Exactly. That's my point. You're saying you have no idea and stating that you know it's something when you don't.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Oh, wait. Just let's
this. You're saying it can't be this.
Let's back up a second.
I don't know this. So you can't say indefinitely that you know. That's my
I can say something. If the kid was alive during the King Ahaz, then he's not the Messiah. That was my whole point.
And I'm asking you, if he's alive, show me where. You see, you can't because it's not about Emmanuel.
Can I ask
you? It's giving you a prophecy about the Messiah. That's why.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you an honest question? No, I'm not, and I'm being real here. And I, if you don't want me to come back after this, that's fine. But I want a real question. To my mind, you are arguing very much like I've seen atheists argue, where you're trying to save the position, and that's not a bad thing, right? We all do that, right? But when I read this, I go...
I'm calling out your fallacy of saying you know something when you, in fact, don't actually know for sure. You're stating that you know, and I'm saying, show me. And you say, well, it doesn't matter because you can't show it because it's not there.
Hey, like, I'll step away after this, and you can definitely get your word on it. What I'm going to say is when I read this, I see a prophecy to a king who's in political trouble. I see a prophet show up and say, listen, there's someone pregnant. By the time their kid knows right from wrong, your political problems are going to be over. Now, if you ask me, you can't think that unless you know the exact day the kid was born, or it doesn't say like how old they are when they know right from wrong. You're 100% correct. But to my mind, I don't need those. One, those details weren't given to me by the author, so I can't. But I can say that like a plain reading goes, hey, this kid was a sign to the king that before this kid is too old, your political problems are going away. And then I'd say, hey, did that happen? If we read further, do the enemies of Ahaz, are they defeated within a couple years of this prophecy? And if that's what the story tells us, it seems pretty clear about what the meaning was. And that's all I mean by all this. Like, I don't see why that's such a bad thing to just read it plainly as it says.
Okay, that's what I'm stating. So in this passage, it's stating that the child's timeline of when to know to refuse good and evil matters in this prophecy. Yes?
Not really to me, no. Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way.
It matters.
Does it matter? Let me ask you why. Like, let's say it was meant to be 2 years, right? Versus 3 years or 5 years. Does that matter? And why would it matter to the story? To the story of the prophet? It matters
to the story because I'm stating to you the reason you can't find this Emmanuel is because he's not born yet, because it's speaking to the Messiah.
But I guess if he's not born yet, then the prophecy to King Ahaz doesn't work. Isaiah was being dishonest.
Have you studied anything about prophecies?
Yeah.
Okay, so
But
have you ever seen prophecies? They happen in 9 months.
what do you mean happen in 9 months?
And what I'm saying, you said you studied prophecies before. The prophecies can take decades, right? You seen
Oh
stuff.
yeah, no. Sometimes the prophecy, like the Messiah prophecy, went on for a very long time. Son of Man, all
Okay,
that stuff. Yeah.
so who you can't state. Well, this one is definitely in this timeline because that's just what I think. It's a prophecy, so it doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen right now. All that it means it's going to happen. It doesn't mean it's going to happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. It could be 400 years from now. Just like in the Old Testament when the Israelites were in enslaved in Egypt. He told them he was going to get them out of there, but it was 400 years later. Does that mean that the prophecy wasn't fulfilled? No, it just means it was 400 years later.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. Like maybe that's what I'm saying. I don't think prophecies I think there are prophecies that are for way in the future, right? I got no problem with that. But there's also prophecies that are meant to be fulfilled. Like put it this way, do you think there's any, not counting Jesus, just Old Testament, are there any prophecies that were fulfilled in the Old Testament? Like where someone said, "Hey, this thing's going to happen," and then it happened in that story.
No,
Or
it didn't. The prophecies wasn't fulfilled until Jesus came in the New Testament. That was the whole point, which is why he said, "Have you not read your books? I'm not here to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law." He's there to fulfill the prophecies that were in the Old Testament.
No, I know, but like there was a prophecy that the Israelites would return to their homeland, right, after being in captivity.
Mhm.
So that was fulfilled before Jesus, right? There was a prophecy, and
Yeah,
then it was
but
fulfilled.
how long did that take?
No, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Like hundreds, we say hundreds of years or thousands of years, whatever you want to say. But like it was done in the story, right? Like it was fulfilled at a certain time before Jesus, right? Because it wasn't about Jesus. It was just about these people coming home, right? So prophecies can be fulfilled in any timeline. It could be days, or it could be 1,000 years or 10,000 years, right?
Yes, and my point is, if you're making a claim that it was in his lifetime, and I'm saying
Yeah.
where do you see this? So I'm asking you to show
Oh,
me
okay.
this,
All
and you
right.
saying I
So
can't.
what was the prophecy? Just so we make sure. What's the prophecy to King Ahaz? Like not the kid, but the kid. Let's say the kid's just a marker. But what is the prophet trying to reassure Ahaz about?
About the two kings.
That are attacking him, right?
Yeah, this is war between
Yeah.
the kings. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those kings are going to be at his direct footstool.
What do you mean footstool?
Footstool means like they're going to be at his, basically they're going to be at his feet because they're defeated.
So you don't think this is reassuring King Ahaz that the enemies are going to be defeated? You don't think that's what the prophecy is about?
Yes, but it doesn't tell you when.
I think it does, but the point is that like we've covered it. We won't go over this again. I think there's an impasse here about me going, hey, a kid can be born, I'm fine with that, and you needing more specifics. But it's about King Ahaz's enemies, right? That's why the prophet's there. The prophet doesn't come up saying, I'm going to tell you about a Messiah. It goes, hey, King Ahaz, you've got a problem, I've got a solution, God's going to help you out, and God says, you've got enemies, they will be disposed of, right? That's the context of this story. Now, did that happen? Were these enemies of King Ahaz taken care of?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously then whatever the prophecy was about, if it was about taking care of his enemies, those things have happened according to the story, right? Because we got to take the whole story.
Yeah, but it didn't say that it was in his lifetime.
But no, I'm asking, in King Ahaz's lifetime, were those people taken care of? Did King Ahaz emerge victorious as the prophet said he would? That's all I'm asking. Yeah. Okay, in his lifetime, right?
It's still in his lineage.
No, but in his lifetime, in King Ahaz's lifetime, did he succeed?
It didn't say in his lifetime.
Oh no, I'm just asking the question. I'm asking you as like a scholar of the Bible. If we look at his enemies, in his lifetime, did King Ahaz triumph over these enemies?
I'm about to just real quick so you can see exactly, because This is crazy.
No, I'm like historically is
Let
King
me show you-
Ahaz.
Let me show you something. I'm gonna show you.
Sure.
real quick. So again, we have Isaiah. You said this is about his son Emmanuel. So you said, therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. You said that this is the son that was in that timeline, right?
Yeah, the woman's gonna have a kid.
Okay. Now Matthew states, which is New Testament. So all that all this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is translated God with us. Matthew is speaking about Jesus. Jesus.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
it's the same two lines. Isaiah before Jesus, Emmanuel.
Oh no, I know that. I know Matthew pulled that from the story.
So Matthew is stating that the one that is Emmanuel is prophesied. He fulfilled it in Matthew. This is Jesus.
Oh no, he's definitely making the claim that this was about Jesus. He's wrong. He's making a prophecy where there isn't one. But
how do you know?
Well, at this point, it's hard to say. Like, I think I've said my best position. To me, the prophecy was to King Ahaz. It was never set.
You're saying he's wrong. How do you know?
Sure, it's because the prophecy this is quoting, right, was to King Ahaz about his political problems. It wasn't about a Messiah, and it wasn't about a virgin.
How do you know? You keep saying what you know it's not, but you're not stating how do you know it is.
I guess I have to trust Isaiah. When Isaiah tells me that the prophet came to King Ahaz.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Let me finish, if I could.
Intellectually dishonest, boss. You say, "Oh, I'll trust Isaiah because it fits what I'm stating," but I can't trust Matthew because he's stating something that goes against Isaiah. So I can trust him, but I can't trust him.
No. Wait. Let me finish my thought. I trust the author of Isaiah. They had a purpose for writing the story, right? They were talking about King Ahaz. So I just say, okay, I'm going to take them at face value. They're talking about King Ahaz and his problems. That's all I'm saying. I'm like, they were writing this for a reason, and they never mentioned a Messiah. As I said, what I've seen is, like, I know you like the New King James, but there are many other versions that translate it as a young woman is pregnant. It doesn't say virgin, and you can look into that if you want to or not. That's fine. But I just trust that when Isaiah says that the Lord is talking to Ahaz about his problems, the story is about Ahaz and his problems. And that's all I mean by I trust him. Like, I want to listen to what the author says.
Okay,
I don't think
listen to what Matthew says when he says.
Oh, sure. So for Matthew, and this is where it gets interesting, is like Matthew was reading from the Greek Septuagint. That's not a wild claim. He was reading from the Greek, and the Greek word for virgin, when they translate it, was it Parthenos? It's a word for virgin, right? And it can mean virgin or not virgin. They have examples of like the same word used in the Iliad, but it can mean virgin. And so by the time Matthew is reading it, the word, from what I understand, I'll have to get scholars to you. I'm fine supplying that after the stream. Had started to use that more in a way that had to mean virgin, where it could have meant young woman. So I think this is my understanding. Because of the Greek.
Hold on. Even if it is young, let's just say it does mean young woman.
Sure.
Do you understand the history of the ethnic Jews?
That's not nearly as well as probably you do. So
the reason I'm saying that, even if I grant you young woman,
sure,
the way that they lived, they will, if you were to get married and they found out you were lying and you were not a virgin, you would be stoned.
Well, young woman doesn't speak to marital status.
So if she's conceiving a baby, she would be a virgin no matter what.
Yeah, like I said,
this is how they lived. They lived when they got married. It's not like how we live in this era now, where no one's really virgins anymore. Back then, if you weren't a virgin before marriage, you would be considered an outcast, if not stoned.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm familiar with that.
Even if it means young woman, she is a virgin based off of how they lived, because they didn't stone her. Never mentions anything about
stone. Well, she could have been married. It doesn't. The word doesn't mean not married. It just means young woman. Young woman, from what I understand, at least in the Hebrew, doesn't connotate.
I'm speaking to her being young, even if it means young. Let's say even if I grant you, it doesn't mean virgin and it means young.
Sure.
She's still a virgin.
Yes. Yeah. But she could be a
Based off
married.
the history
She could
of
be a
how they-
married virgin. Like who? Wait. It says young woman, not young virgin. It says young woman here, not virgin.
No. I said, okay.
Yeah.
I think you missed what I just said. I said,
Sure.
even if I grant you that she is a young woman,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean virgin. I
Sure.
said, based off of history on how they lived at this period in time, she would be a virgin because if she was not, she would be stoned to death.
Wait. So the young woman is pregnant, is what it says. She could be married. She could be not. It just says she's pregnant. There's nothing wrong with being a pregnant young woman, as long as you're married, I would assume, at this time. Right? No, I'm serious. Like, if the young woman's pregnant, that's not a problem, right? If she's married, if she's a married young woman, she can be pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the prophet's saying, look, this young woman is pregnant.
Can Mary be pregnant?
What do you mean?
You're stating that she could be pregnant. I'm not saying she couldn't be pregnant.
So the young the Isaiah story.
Mary, we're stating was pregnant as well. They're both pregnant, right?
Oh, I saw. Oh, you've left Isaiah. You're moving on to the Gospels. Okay, so Mary in the Gospels, yeah, she could be pregnant, sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's not about being pregnant or not.
The only reason I brought up pregnant was because from the readings I see, it wasn't a future thing. It was the young woman is pregnant. So in King Ahaz's time, the prophet's like, this young woman is pregnant. She's going to give birth to a kid. So it wasn't a future thing. It was just in his time.
So then where's the kid? Where's that child?
The only thing we haven't mentioned is his name is Emmanuel. Apparently the name he was given, that's the only thing we know about him. That's all it says about him.
And Matthew tells us who this Emmanuel is.
Oh no, he's definitely trying to tie in Jesus. I think it's pretty obvious that it's not Jesus, and this is the legend building around this, in part because of the Greek influence. But yeah, he's going back and trying to find prophecies that he can sort of put this into.
So would you build a legend off of your death?
Well, I wouldn't be around.
Well, no. What I mean by that is you're saying this is just a legend he's building. So these people would be persecuted for claiming the things that they claimed, yet they still did it, knowing that they would die for it. So well, you're stating, well, he's just building a legend. These people were beheaded, and these people were sorted and executed based off of the things that they're stating. So well, I'm saying you don't build a fake story. You don't build a legend off of you dying. What you would do is you would do something like how the Greeks did. You have Zeus or you have Hercules, and you make them sound mighty and you make them sound powerful. You don't give anything bad about them. You give everything good, but nothing with distress, torment, nothing with hurt, none of these things. Why don't you hear anything with the Greek mythology about Zeus or Hercules, about them going through hardship or anything like that?
So I'm not an expert in Greek mythology. I don't know.
I'm saying, have you ever heard anything about Zeus or Hercules, about the bad stories about them?
Man, I know them from Disney cartoons. I can't speak to what they went through. But to my point, though, like, here's the thing. I've heard this before. The argument is, like, why would they make this up, right? Why would they say these things if they can get in trouble?
I'm not just saying why. I'm going based off of history shows us these people were killed for it. So I'm not just stating an emotional thing. I'm saying what actually happened.
Sure. So I have two things to that. One is, if that is the standard, then when Mormons suffered and died, I guess Joseph Smith was another prophet. Or if Muslims died, then I guess Muhammad was actually a prophet. Like, if you say, if any people who
I
suffer,
can see the difference between the two.
Well, no, I don't want to get into that because that's like a different thing. What I'm saying is, like, if just suffering for your beliefs is a sign that we should say those beliefs might be true, that's a problem.
That's the point I was getting at right there.
Yeah.
The difference between Christianity and all of the other ones, you just said it yourself. You said belief. Muslims have belief. Judaism has belief. David Koresh, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have belief. The difference between Christianity and all the other ones is They didn't die because of their belief. They died because of what they said they seen. They didn't say, I'm dying because I believe in Jesus. No, they died and they were beheaded because they said, I saw him risen. So they died for what they have claimed to have seen, not died based off of a belief. They didn't say, I believe in God, so they were beheaded. They said, I believe, I saw Jesus with my own eyes. I seen him walking. So they die for what they have claimed to have seen, not based off of a belief. That's
So
the difference.
are you saying that there's people like Joseph Smith didn't see angels or God or Jesus? There was claims he did.
I'm talking about his followers. His followers didn't go out and say, I seen Joseph Smith risen from the dead, so I'm gonna die for him.
What followers claim to see Jesus after he died?
You said what followers?
Yeah, like who saw Jesus after he died?
So you have John, Peter, the 500.
Wait.
Paul, and then you have Paul. Then you have
Hold
Paul.
on. Let's pick one. Pick one. Just pick one for me. What's the best? What's the best one you think that's the best evidence that people saw him after?
I'll use the one that even the skeptic scholars accept, which is Paul.
So what does Paul claim, that he saw Jesus resurrected?
He claimed to have seen the risen Jesus, yes, at the road to Damascus.
Okay. But that doesn't mean he did, right? Sure. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Take care of it. We're all good.
Okay.
You got some kid aggro there?
Yeah, I have two kids. My son is in his room. My daughter is playing in upstairs and downstairs.
That's awesome. I don't have kids myself, but like I have enough friends with kids. They need attention, and I get it. Glad you stepped away. Kids are important. So my point is, like, Paul says he saw something. Now I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. There was a lot of like roadside appearances in the Greek cultures about gods appearing on the roadsides. I can look those up if you want, but like,
and then and even Bart Ehrman confirms that Paul knew Peter and James, which is the half brother of Jesus.
Sure.
So Paul is a very important figure because he was hostile. He persecuted the Christians himself. Any Messianic Jew he would persecute. So he was a hostile witness and he converted. So we have to ask ourselves, why would this man who had no interest in this, would he convert when he was persecuting them, he was killing them, he was murdering them? So why would he transition from being a Pharisee, because Paul was actually a Pharisee as well. So this means he was very, very high ranking as a Jew because he was a Pharisee. And he converted from being a Pharisee to having a good, decent life, to on the run, getting thrown in prison. From Rome to Jerusalem, all these places, he's getting thrown in prison. He went from persecuting Christians, being comfortable, to being thrown in prison because he said he claimed to have seen Jesus and met with Peter and met with James, the half brother of Jesus. Why?
Yeah. Oh, so I'm not a scholar. A couple reasons. One, I didn't know at first he was a Pharisee, so he was well read in both Hebrew and.
That's why they accept him. So they accept him. Sorry, they accept him because they consider Paul as a first class scholar. That's what they consider him. He's a first class scholar, meaning he was a scholar really before a scholarly thing. Scholar was a real thing. So they accept him because of the way he writes. They consider him a scholar because he was real well read.
Yeah. So like my take on it is this, and this is my own thoughts after learning a bit more about like the Greek influence, the Hellenistic influence on Jewish thought during this time period. But my take on it is that he was likely well read in both Hebrew and Greek. So he was familiar with like,
and we know this because he actually had dual citizenship. He had dual citizenship as a Jew and a Roman, so he knew Greek.
Yeah. So my take on it is like he's well read and he's familiar with like not only like Jewish thought at the time, but and I mean like Jewish thought as it's intermingling with Greek thought. So he's familiar with like the discussions going on because you got to, I think, what is it like in the cities at that time? I think Bart Ehrman or somebody said like less than 10% in the cities is the amount of people who could read, right? So reading and writing is a very small circle.
They would consider them most majority of them were illiterate.
Yeah, and so you don't have a lot of people to talk to either. So I think they're reading these things, and I think Paul over time is influenced by a lot of writing that's going on, and he comes to see Jesus as maybe the Logos, maybe this idea that he was this Messiah. And I think Paul does rely on a lot of like Greek ideas, and that may sound weird, but have you ever heard of Philo of Alexandria?
No.
Do me a favor, just write this down. Philo of Alexandria. Again, I want to read some of his works. Apparently, he was a Jew living in Alexandria, Egypt. He was born around, I think, BCE 500, died around 2325 BCE. So was writing right when Jesus was living and, up until when the apostles were writing. He had a logos theology. He was mixing Hebrew ideas and Greek ideas, because the Greeks were all about pneuma. Like let me blow your mind for a second. You know how like in the New Testament, they're always talking about the Spirit will descend upon you. The Spirit will guide you. The Spirit. Yeah. But we don't see that kind of mentions of the Spirit in the Old Testament. You might get it sometimes.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit is in the Old Testament.
No, like there's the one that the Holy Spirit, but like here in the, like, I may be wrong, but I think the New Testament uses the word Spirit a lot more because of the Greek influence, because they were very much into pneuma, spirit, the Stoicisms. Long story short is that I think Paul was influenced by Jewish.
Well, the reason they use it a lot more is because Jesus directly himself is stating he's leaving it with us. That's the reason why I mentioned more.
But the whole idea of the Spirit, like, look into Philo of Alexandria, look into some Stoicism, it's called pneuma. But the Greeks were all about spirit. They developed a whole system of like, the spirit of animals. The spirit is what allows your mind to go out when you're dreaming. Like they had this whole spirit thing going on, and I think we see that in the Gospels. They're influenced by that because remember, like this is what I love about this. The Gospel writers, even if you don't think, like I don't think they were who they said they were. I don't think Matthew wrote Matthew, etc. But they were educated Greek writers. They were aware of these things happening in Greek and Jewish philosophy, and the developments and how they were bouncing off one another. So I honestly think Paul was someone who was a Pharisee. He had a good life. He, to sort of keep his position. He, maybe went after these darn Christians and their heresies. But I think over time he got convinced by these other writings that, yeah, maybe there's something to Jesus. And I think he probably did have an experience. He had some kind of religious experience on the road, and he switched sides. He turned around. And I also personally, I think it gave him a lot more sense of power. And what I mean is, if you're a Pharisee, right?
I don't know how you would get power out of being killed.
No. Let me put it this way. So if you're a Pharisee, he's got a set job, right? He's well off. He's got some money, but he's doing the same thing over and over again, right? Like he's part of the establishment. Now imagine this. You switch sides. You go over to this young religion, right? That's developing. I mean, remember, during this time, like we don't have the Gospels. Like Gospels came after Paul, right? So Paul isn't even relying.
It didn't.
Are you sure? I thought Paul's writings predate the Gospels. Are you sure of that?
Yeah. So Paul. I'll give you a perfect example of what I mean. Paul establishes the hostile timeline. Paul. So the first book is Galatians. Galatians is estimated, even by Bart Ehrman, to be considered. Galatians would be between 48 AD and 55 AD, right? 48 to 55 AD. And they state that Jesus was crucified around 30 to 33 AD. So This places Galatians only about 15 to 16 years after the crucifixion.
Oh, sure.
But here's the important part. In Galatians, look at this. In Galatians, which is in 48 to 45 AD, in Galatians, this is Paul. He says, "Then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter and remained with him 15 days. But I saw none of the other apostles except for James, the Lord's brother." Right? That's the first thing. So he states in Galatians that he meets Peter and James. And then in 1 Corinthians, he states this. He states, "For I delivered to you first of all that which I also received, that Christ died for our sins. So Paul, even though he predates the actual gospel, like the
Right.
written gospel, he's stating here in Corinthians that's dated before it, stating, I am giving you something that I received. He received something before the gospels was actually even out, stating that what he received was that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures. So this would mean, even though Paul's writings, right, were out, technically out before the actual gospels, he's stating the tradition of the gospels was already there before him, because he received it. He said, I received it and I'm giving it to you. This is what's called the resurrection creed. The resurrection creed was given to Paul, and Paul is delivering it to the people of Corinthians. So the tradition of Jesus dying on that cross was already in place.
Oh yeah, no, I believe there were lots of writings about this at the time. I was just saying, like, if we look at what's the earliest gospel, the Synoptic Gospels, what's Mark our earliest? And I think they put it at like 70 to 85 CE.
No.
Let me look this up. Mark Gospel written when? Let me look this up. AI. Okay, so Wikipedia. I'm just going to it real quick. It says it was written around 70 AD.
Yeah, but that's not our earliest.
Isn't Mark the earliest of the Synoptic Gospels?
No.
Really? Mm-hmm. What's the earliest synoptic Gospels? Okay, Synoptic Gospels.
Our earliest would be Luke, because Luke writes about Acts around 33 AD.
Okay, so I've got St. Paul's Center. I imagine it's a thing. It says most modern scholars say Mark's Gospel 70-75, Matthew 75, Luke around 80 to 90.
No, Luke wrote Acts around 33 AD.
Okay. When was Acts written by Luke? I hate using this. Let's see. Gotquestions.org. I assume that's an apologetic. Between 58 and 62 AD is when Acts was written. Where are you getting your number? Because I'm looking at Bart Ehrman, and it says most scholars believe the books of Acts was composed between 80 and 90 CE, and that's off Bart Ehrman's website, his blog. And to me, it doesn't matter too much. It's not super salient to my point.
I'm giving you the direct timeline. Let me show you. So let me show you. When do they say Jesus was crucified? Because even Ehrman says he agrees that Jesus was crucified.
Yeah, it's like 33 BCE. Or sorry, CE, yeah.
Okay, right. So let me show you this.
All right, wait, just look. Are you saying Bart Ehrman's wrong about the scholarly consensus on when Acts was written?
Yes, and I'm going to show you why.
Okay. That's a bold claim to say that the scholars are all wrong, but...
Well, the skeptic scholars are wrong, and I'm going to show you why.
Is there a Christian scholar that I could go to see when they say it is? Like
Gary Habermas. You can use Gary Habermas. You know who you can also use? Have you heard of Anthony Flew?
I will look it up.
Anthony Flew was the older generation's Bart Ehrman. He was one of the most influential atheists.
So
he died in 2010, and he actually, before he died, he wrote a book called "There Is a God: How the World's Most Notorious Atheist Became a Believer." He wrote it in 2007, 3 years before he died. For his whole life, he was an atheist for decades. He was an atheist for decades. 3 years before his death, he converted. And he's not just anybody. He was one of the. Go look up Anthony Flew. He was one of the world's most influential atheists. He is our generation's Bart Ehrman or Richard Dawkins.
Sure. I just real quick. I don't trust bedside stories about conversion. That seems a little weird to me.
Anthony Flew said this himself. He wrote a book about it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's not something that they said. He wrote a book himself, Anthony Flew. You can find him on Google. He died in 2010, but he wrote a book about it himself, his own book about it. But his whole life, is documented. His whole life, he's arguing. He even argues other believer scholars before he converted. He debated Gary Habermas, the Christian scholar I'm talking about. He actually debated him about these topics. So he was, in fact, a atheist.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Habermas. It's again, I hate these AI things. It says Habermas says before 65, but early 60s. So like between 60 and 65.
Let me show you.
Yeah, I'm trying to find Habermas. There's a direct quote of when he says Acts.
Remember how we talked about how it's estimated Jesus died around 30 to 33 AD, right?
Yeah, I think that's a consensus. I don't think that's much disputed by anyone.
Yeah. Okay. So look at this. This is why I say I disagree with someone like Bart Ehrman. Look at this. Galatians, again, which we know was written between when?
We just said it, but you'll know more than I am.
Galatians was written between 48 and 55 AD. Do you have your phone or calculator that you can like quickly type?
No, but you can give me the numbers if you know them offhand. I trust you.
Okay. So Galatians was written between 48 and 45 AD. In Galatians here, and Jesus, keep in mind, was crucified between 30 and 33.
Sure.
Then this is right here. Galatians is written in 48 to 55. But Paul mentions something very significant. He says, then after 14 years, I went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas. He gives us a timeline. Galatians was written in 48 to 55 AD. Then Paul mentions about 14 years of time he was in an area. 14 years. So subtract, let's give it a middle number, 50. Subtract that by 33.
That would be what, 17?
By 33. 17 years, right? So we have Paul right here defending the gospel within 17 years of Jesus' crucifixion.
Wait, when it says gospel, just to make sure, when it says gospel, what does gospel mean in
the good news?
Right. So we don't know. We don't know what books this was. It was just the gospel. The gospel.
Paul just told you in Corinthians. He said he received what was given to him, that Jesus died for our sins. He said it in 1 Corinthians.
Sure.
So the gospel is defending that Jesus died for our sins. And he says right here in Galatians that he was in this area for 14 years. And then after he went up to Jerusalem. So he was in this area in this 14 period time. And this is Galatians. So this means he's spending 14 years in a time space. So subtract 14 by 50 or 48 and subtract that by 33 or 30. You have Galatians defending the gospel between 15 to 17 years of Jesus being crucified and raising again.
Yeah, no, I think the heart of this is when it says gospel, do you think that means Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
What it means is he got this information from Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Peter.
Right, but no, I mean, I don't doubt that. I believe he got stories. Absolutely fine with these stories that he got in. What I'm saying is, like, when we talk about like the book of Matthew, the one we have today, scholars think it was written around 70 something AD. What I'm saying is, like, I don't know that the book that we know as the book of Matthew is what Paul is talking about when he says gospel.
He just told us what he was talking about in 1 Corinthians. He stated he is giving us something that he received himself.
Yeah. But okay, no, wait. So he received something, but was it word for word the gospel of Matthew is what I'm saying?
What is the gospel? Do you know what the gospel is?
No. It means we just said that, like good
news,
right?
What is the good news? What is it?
Sure. So I think most Christians would say that Jesus Christ came and died for our sins.
Exactly, and so he stated in 1 Corinthians exactly that.
Yeah. No, I don't have any problem, but I don't know why that, like when Habermas, it seems to say that Acts was written like in the 60s, why that's a problem.
Why, what is the problem?
That if like the date of the Gospels, like we were talking about, like
what I'm talking about is how is Paul defending something that doesn't exist yet? If he came first, how is he? This is my point. It makes zero sense.
There's a misunderstanding. No, I agree with you. No, listen, ever since Jesus died, I believe there were stories about him, traditions. People were like talking about him from the moment probably before he died, long after his death, right? I don't think that I wasn't saying that when the gospel was written, like if scholars say like, the Gospel of Mark was written in the 70s, that it came out of nowhere, invented. I think it was written based off the language. We think it was written during the 70s, but it obviously came from stories people were telling before that. Like, yeah, that's all I meant. Like, I have no problem if it's like today, if I write a book about Greek gods, it doesn't mean that like I came up with Greek gods. Greek gods and their stories existed long before. I'm just writing a book that I wrote, this decade. That's all.
Yeah. So, and what I'm stating is, even though the Gospels, the actual tangible of the Gospels, was written after Galatians. Galatians gives us a timeline that the Gospels existed before Galatians was even written, because Paul right here is stating that he's in this area for 14 years, and they are defending the fact that they're stating that Jesus died for our sins. So this gives us a timeline of only 15 to 17 years after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is what Paul is arguing.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just not getting this, but when it says gospel, I'm just saying, like, I don't think that when they say gospel, they necessarily meant like the book of Mark as we know it.
Well, it wasn't a book yet, so he's not talking
right
about that.
Right. Yeah, we agree. I think all scholars are saying is that, like, if we date it to like Mark to 70 AD after Paul, it's just that version of Mark that we have where they're guessing was written in 70, but it was based off older traditions, other stories that came out earlier. I think we agree on that.
No, it wasn't. They didn't. None of them disagreed on the story that you're talking about. Again, Paul states he's giving something that was giving us something that was given to him, that Jesus died for our sins. This is what he's stating.
I agree. I got no problem with that.
So that's the gospel.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just talking about specific books. Like when I said like Mark, I was saying like scholars think Mark was written at a certain time. That's all.
Okay. This is what I'm arguing. I'm arguing the skeptic scholars who say, well, we can't trust it because it came after this, and this, and that. I'm stating the reason I disagree even with these scholars is because, plain as day, Paul is giving us timelines. If even the skeptic scholars say, yes, Galatians was written at 48 to 55 AD, that's before the Gospels, and Corinthians was written 51 to 56 AD. Even the skeptic scholars agree to this, right?
Yeah, sure.
So they're saying, well, we can't believe the Gospels because it came after the fact. Paul is giving us the answer. He's stating, the Gospels came before me. So for example, if I write something in 2026 and I say, hey, I was given something that I'm giving to y'all, and they gave it to me and I'm giving it to you guys. What am I claiming there?
You wrote a book, you wrote something this year and you're giving it out to them.
But that would mean whatever they're giving, whatever I received that I'm giving you guys in the book, it already existed, right?
Oh yeah, you're like, I wrote a book based off some stories I heard. Those stories existed before you wrote the book. 100%. Yeah, no problem there.
Exactly. So what I'm stating is, Paul is giving us a timeline that is way before 70, way before 60, way before 50.
Right. So I'll just make my position very clear, and I don't think we disagree. I think there were writings about Jesus when Paul talks about the Gospels. I think there's some disagreement. Like, did he get it just from Jesus on the road, or was he talking to, did he get it from the apostles? Let's say he gets it from the apostles. He meets the apostles, and remember, if the story,
he said he did.
Sure. So let's say he did. Let's say he said he did. He met them, and he already knew a bit about them because he was persecuting them, right? So he must have been familiar with some of the stories about Jesus, right? That makes sense.
That's why they were persecuting. But Paul said,
So he knows about Jesus. He talks to some of Jesus' followers. He gets more information, and then over the next 20, 30 years, or whatever, he's writing his thoughts on these stories. I got no problem with that. I think, but when a scholar says that like Mark was written, let's say in 70 CE, all I take from that is like this story of Mark, which is based off maybe the same stories that Paul heard, was composed, as far as we know, in 70 CE, based off the language used and the type of things they say. I'm fine with that, because I don't think that doesn't discredit anything as far as I'm concerned. It's not a reason to say it's not true at all. In the same way, let's put it this way, like,
Then
you know how
what is the significance of stating, well, this was written in 70, this was written in 60? Why does it matter? If it's not to discredit it, then what is the purpose of it?
I'm trying to think of where we went on this journey. Why do we? I forgot. Why did we bring up the dates to begin with? Do you remember? Why were we talking about the dates?
Yeah, because I'm using.
Sorry. So sorry. My point. Sorry. I remember now. When I say I'm not sure what of the Gospels Paul was familiar with, what I mean by Gospels is like what we have in our book today in the Septuagint, like in the Codex Vaticanus, the accepted books of the Gospel today. So all I meant was like, Paul, I don't think had access to like the version of Mark we have. He may have had the same stories. He may have had even stories that we don't even know about now. I just meant that he didn't have, I don't think he had a book of Mark that like we have today because it was written later. That's all I meant.
Yeah, but what would that matter if they're all stating the same thing that truly matters? They all agree that Jesus died for our sins and he was here to save us. They all agree to that. It doesn't matter when Paul wrote it or when Matthew wrote it or when Mark wrote it. They all agreed to that.
I agree. I think this all started because you meant I was like, I'm pretty sure the synoptic gospels came after Mark, and you said no, they didn't. And I think this is all about a big nothing burger, because like
the timeline.
I have no problem saying Mark wrote a gospel in 70 CE that we have now, but that doesn't invalidate where he got those stories from, and those may be the same stories that Paul got. I'm fine with that.
But the reason it's important is because he didn't just get it from like anywhere. Paul is stating, he's telling us where he got it from. He said, I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter, which we know is a direct disciple of Jesus. And Paul is stating that he met him. So it wasn't like Paul is stating, yeah, I got the gospels from around town. And, the people of the Jews, I got it from them and I put it into a book. He's claiming to have met someone who is a direct correlation to Jesus himself. You can't get any closer to Peter.
Sure. I understand the argument here. I don't know if Paul is being honest about this. He may or may not be.
Then why, if he's not being honest, then why do even the skeptic scholars accept these books?
What do you mean? What do you mean accept these books?
They accept these books as authentic.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not saying like. Listen, I'm fine with that. Paul wrote this stuff. Let's just agree that Paul wrote this. But I don't know if what Paul is writing is true or not. That's a separate thing. Like we can agree that like somebody writes something, right, and they wrote it at a certain time. I can even agree that Paul met Peter. Let's say, sure, he did. He met Peter. Peter told him all about Jesus, right? Let's just say that happened. Now, when Paul is writing this later, and he's like, because it's not a live journal, right? We have a formalized final, like Paul writes letters. Paul, talks about himself. He's not live streaming this. So I'm like, but
we have their manuscripts. There's actually more manuscripts for Christianity than any other religion in the world.
You don't want to use that one, and I'll tell you why. What? Saying there's more copies of something that was largely done in like during the church's time in after 300, like there's lots of copies, but like it doesn't really matter because they were copies of copies of copies. So it's not like we're introducing new evidence into.
What are the manuscripts are the original text?
Wait. Well, no. What do you mean we don't have originals?
No. When I say manuscripts are original text, what I'm stating is we have manuscripts that are in Hebrew, that are in Greek.
Yeah, but they were created like 300 years afterwards.
No, that's not true. We have manuscripts before Jesus was even born. So what you're saying?
Yeah, no, I thought we were talking about the New Testament. Sorry, I was sticking with the New Testament here for a second. But like, what's the earliest copy? Like when you say we have original manuscripts? When I
say original manuscripts, I'm saying Hebrew is almost a dead language. We have manuscripts in Hebrew.
Of what?
Of the Old Testament.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
And we have Greek manuscripts of the New Testament.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean we have the originals. That's all I'm saying. We have
We have,
copies.
we have the original text that it was in. So when you say, well, we
Wait.
have a distorted version in the English, we have what they wrote.
Wait, no, we don't. Oh, sorry. I think there might be a language thing. Like, no, we have. No, I agree. We have writings in Hebrew. We have writings in Aramaic. We have writings in Greek.
That's
We have
where our
writing in Coptic.
That's where our
Yeah.
translations come from.
Yeah, no, I know. Sorry. So the way you phrased that sentence was when you said original text. What you're saying is like the original language it was written in. I thought you meant like we have the actual text that the author of Paul wrote someplace, and we don't. Like we don't have that, but we have copies in the original language that the author of Paul was writing in. I agree.
Well,
with
they
that.
we actually do have some of Paul's original. That's why a lot of them.
Oh,
That's why they take Paul as more authentic. They say they can authenticate Paul more than the others because Paul we have a lot more because he wrote so much. More of his things were preserved, so we actually have a few things of his.
Wait. Do you mean that we have a few things like paper that Paul touched?
Not paper. They didn't write.
Sorry. Papyrus. Do you think we have papyrus that Paul, the author of Paul, touched with their own hands?
Yeah.
That I think is untrue, and I'm not calling you a liar. I'm like I know of no scholars that say any of our copies of Paul go back to Paul's life. Do you have an example?
Where do you think they get the dates from? Where do you think they get the dates from?
Oh, a couple things. One is they will look at for the fragments we do have. They try to date those within I think within a certain period of time based off carbon dating, right? So they kind of go, when could this physical copy have existed? Mm-hmm. The second thing they'll look at is what was used to write on that, like what kind of ink does it match or whatever they use, does it match that time frame? And then lastly,
and if it's in the timeline of Paul being alive.
Sure. And the last thing is they'll look at language. How are words being used? Because much like our culture and language, words change over time. And so I think they said there's about a 50-year period where like in the life of an average person where you're going to get words used in certain ways. So yeah, like, can you point me to where, like, what copy of Paul do we, or
no, what I'm stating is if we have correlation that Paul wrote this in 48 AD, and Paul was alive in 48 AD.
So, real quick,
and they said they're claiming Paul wrote these things himself. So how would they know Paul wrote it himself without knowing Paul wrote it himself?
So I just did a quick search. It's like oldest fragment of New Testament, and it's saying it's the Papyrus P52 Business Side Card Gospel of John, and they are dating it to 125 to 150 AD.
No, what I'm stating is if you write something,
yeah,
they say, hey, this was written by Paul in 48 AD.
Sure.
That means Paul was alive when he wrote this.
Oh, no, yeah. So maybe we're jumping around. I meant like you said, physically, we have a actual like a piece of papyrus that you think Paul touched, like that was written by the authors of Paul.
No, I'm saying Paul is the writer.
I have no problem with Paul's writing, my friend. Like Paul, I have no problem with like the idea of when Paul was writing these things. That's fine. You seem to say, sorry, I thought you were saying that like we have a copy of Paul's writing that goes back to like the time of Paul in terms of like in a museum someplace that we're like this piece of writing is old enough to be.
What I'm trying to get you to see is even you're saying because you don't trust Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John because we don't know if these are the authentic writers, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm dating is if we can correlate these writings all the way back to the time that they're alive, it's a high probability that either they wrote it or they were there when it was written because the timeline matches their lifetime period.
Oh yeah,
Paul was written Galatians in 48 to 55 AD. He was alive then. It's a high likelihood he wrote it himself or he was there when it was written because of the time period existed within his lifespan.
Oh yeah, I'm not objecting to that. No, that's fine.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Sorry. I think the way we were using language, I thought you were saying like we have a scrap of Paul's writing that goes back to like when he was actually alive, and I was like, that's a big claim. But
no, I'm speaking about the historicity of how the timelines add up to their lifespan.
Oh yeah, no, I have no problem like that, and that's why I'm like, listen, like if Mark was written in 70 CE, it's unlikely that the author of Mark knew Jesus. It's possible you get later dates for like John, and it starts to get a little more unlikely that the person there ever met Paul or Jesus. But like, the thing is, I just trust scholars. If scholars give me a date, I kind of go, "You're the experts. It's fine." Like,
And okay, so if that's the case, Bart Ehrman claims Jesus was crucified. Do you agree?
yeah, no, I think he was probably crucified. That's
Okay.
that's not a terribly unusual idea in scholarship. Yeah, he was probably crucified.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it sounds like to me everything is adding up except for the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. That's the only thing scholars really disagree with. They disagree. They don't disagree that Jesus was a real person. They don't disagree that he was crucified. The only thing they disagree with is he did not rise and he's not God. Right?
I'm Christian scholars may think he is, but yeah, the main issue would be like,
I'm talking about
did he rise from did he rise from the dead? Was he divine? And by the way, divine and God are two different things. I know some Christians always say they're the same. From my viewpoint, those are two different things. But yeah, was he a miracle worker? Was he the Son of God? Did he rise from the dead? Yeah, those are probably things most skeptics would be like, we don't have good evidence that happened.
Yeah, and my issue with that is, like I said, the reason I believe atheism is intellectually dishonest is because of this reason right here. I will accept this half of, and you get the information. Anybody who studies about Jesus, they have to get the information from the Bible. You have
There's a few historians that mention like Jesus and the early followings that are not in the Bible, but yeah.
No one who's truly a scholar, if there's no scholar who's going to use anything outside of the Bible as a main source of the life of Jesus. Not one of them. The Bible is the main source of Jesus.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
So what my issue is, if the Bible is the main source of Jesus' life, what you're doing is you're opening up, you're saying, shh, let me take this half out. I agree with this half, but this half I'm taking out. So you accredit this half and say, well, this sounds like it's more natural and I can see this happening, so I'll agree with this. But this half over here, because I can't believe it that something supernatural is possible, I'm going to take this part out and throw that out. That's not true. But you have to use the same book. So to be a true atheist, I believe you can't accept any of it. You can't state Jesus was a real person. You can't accept morality. You can't accept Paul. You can't accept any of these things because the only way you can find out about it from the number one source is the Bible. But yet you'll take some of it and say, I agree with some of this, but then take some of it out because this one is supernatural and supernatural is not realistic. Let's throw that out. That's not honest.
I'll respond very simply, and I'll give you an example. I'll think I'll turn this around on you for a second. But first of all, I'm very consistent with my atheism. It's not just Christianity that I go, hey, I doubt these miracles happen. I don't think in the Quran, when it says the moon was split in twain, that the moon was split in twain. But I believe a guy named Muhammad lived. When I look at the Old Testament, I believe a lot of these places existed. They talk about Egypt. They talk about different nation states. They even talk about different wars. And scholars have been like, yeah, we have evidence for those wars. Like, I don't think the Exodus happened, but I do think, as scholars have shown, that there were Semitic-speaking people in Egypt at one point because they found Semitic names.
You accept everything except for anything that happens in the Bible that is supernatural.
It's not just the Bible. It's like other books too. Like Joseph Smith. I don't think Joseph Smith was visited by an angel, right? Like, I don't think he found magic tablets that only, conveniently magic tablets is thing.
That's supernatural.
Well, oh yeah. So no. So to be fair, like I'm not treating Christianity any differently than these other religions. It's just I haven't seen any good evidence of like supernatural claims. Like you said, like I don't believe that Poseidon is like the lord of the ocean, right?
You believe in the Big Bang, right?
Oh, I don't want to talk about science. Let's keep it in this realm because that's go off. But like you don't believe the Greek stories are true about Poseidon and this, but you believe that Troy was a real place and they went to war, right? Like you believe some of these people are real historically, but you dismiss the supernatural claims, right? That's not unusual.
What supernatural claims?
Oh, so like if you read the Greeks about like Zeus throwing down thunder or Aphrodite changing form, like you don't
So
believe those
I
things
don't
actually happened.
I don't reject it because it's supernatural. No, that's not why I reject it.
But let's put it this way:
The
if
reason
but
I
you,
the reason I reject it is because there is no there's no there's no evidence that Zeus was a real person. It's like when atheists use
sure,
unicorns, right? There's no evidence that these things exist. So I don't reject it because Zeus throwing down thunder is supernatural. I reject it because I have no evidence that he exists,
perfect. So let me give an example. What was it?
but I have
If
evidence of Christ.
Right. So, okay, here, let me pull up something for you because this is something you can check out. Healing miracles. All right. So, so Bart Ehrman on his blog, you can look this up. It says the miracles of Emperor Vespasian. Have you read about this?
No.
Okay. So basically, long story short, there's a historian Tacitus, Roman historian, in his book The Histories. He basically comes out and says, "Hey, there's a story about this Emperor Vespasian. He healed a blind man by anointing his eyes with spit. He healed a paralyzed man. He restored a hand. So he does all these miracles, this Emperor Vespasian. So much so that later on, the historians they built a statue to him, and people to this day still give offerings. They believe Emperor Vespasian did these things, right? So Emperor Vespasian was a real dude that a Roman historian wrote about. And the stories are he did miracles, very similar. In fact, he compares this to the miracles in the Gospels. But the point is that when I read this, I'm like, there may have been an Emperor Vespasian. I got no problem with that. I don't think he was going around doing miracles though, because just having the historian say some people believe this isn't enough for me to go, yeah, I should accept that Vespasian was doing miracles. And I think he even got ascended into whatever the heaven was for the Romans. But that's what I mean. I'm being consistent. I'm like, I hear about Jesus. I hear he supposedly did miracles. That's not enough to convince me. In the same way that Emperor Vespasian may have been a real person. He was written by a, Tacitus, who was a Roman historian. But I don't think that he did these miracles.
Any of those examples you just gave me, tell me those groups of people were they beheaded for what they claim to have seen.
That doesn't seem relevant to me, though.
It does, because then what I'm telling you why the evidence for Christ is more in quality and quantity because of the type of evidence you have for Christ. All of the other ones, these people groups, the Romans, the Greeks, whomever examples you're giving, these people were not beheaded because they said that they saw Zeus, or they said that they saw this, or they saw that. Christians are the only ones that are beheaded because they claimed to have seen Jesus walking again, risen from the dead.
Who was beheaded? What's give me an example of early Christians that were persecuted.
John the Baptist was beheaded.
Okay, where do you get that from?
The Bible.
Where does it say that in the Bible?
Let me
No, I mean I don't doubt you. I want to know, but I'm like, is there any historian outside of the Bible that says John the Baptist was beheaded?
Pretty sure you can go find it.
No. I mean, have you ever been who else? What's the historical evidence besides this one claim that John was beheaded?
Well, you get your story. Like I said, you get your information from the Bible, just like you get your information from Jesus from the Bible.
Yeah, but I
don't see an issue with that. We just established at the very beginning of the stream, if you want to learn about something, you have to go to a book and read it, right?
Yeah, so it says John was beheaded according to this, and Josephus writes that Herod killed John.
This is a perfect example because he's actually not a Christian. He's outside of Christianity.
Yeah, so I'm like, great. So John was killed, got that. Who else? When you say there was mass persecutions,
yes,
can you give me an example?
Yeah, the persecutions that Paul speaks about in the Romans. The Romans persecuted the Christians.
But what's an example of that? That we can know of? Where were they persecuted? What was the town? When was it? When did it happen?
You have Antioch. You have Jerusalem.
So, give me a verse on those. I want to look these up because it's one thing to say persecutions are happening, but I'm like, did they actually happen? If they did, that's fine. Again, it doesn't affect my. I don't think people suffering for their religion is a sign that religion is true.
That's not a suffering. Suffering is you're poor, so you're suffering because maybe you're starving or you're going through hardship. We're not talking about suffering. We're talking about complete death. So if you only suffer
I don't.
because
I'll rephrase.
you're still alive. They
I don't
die.
think. I don't think being tortured for your faith is a sign that your faith
That's
is
not
real.
torture. That's not torture either.
I don't believe being killed in the slowest possible way, having your entire family killed, is a sign that your religion is true. I don't know what I need to do to say this. Suffering, death, murder, obliteration, having your name stricken from the records of all of humanity, none of that tells me your religion is true. It just tells me that you believed it was true.
No. That's what I'm telling you. If you were to say this again, this is the difference. If you say, "Hey, I believe that Falwyn is God," that's a belief. If you kill me for saying I believe Falwyn is God, right? That's a belief. But if I say, not that I believe Falwyn is God, but I say I seen Falwyn risen from the dead, and I'm killed for that. These are two different things. This one over here is being killed because they believe that Falwyn is God. This one over here is saying, I claim to have seen Falwyn risen from the dead, and I'm beheaded for it. This is not a belief.
I'll rephrase.
Is that a belief if I say I've seen something?
I don't think claiming to have seen a miracle and dying for it is good evidence that the miracle happened.
Okay, if someone came to you and said Jesus is God, yes or no, and you said no, I don't believe he is, and they said then say that he's not God, or I'm gonna kill you. Say that he is God, or I'm gonna kill you for it.
Is this like would I lie to deny my faith? Is that the question? Oh, sure.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is these people were not willing to lie because they claim to have actually seen this. So it's actually significant evidence, because human nature tells us if we're forced, if we're in heat of the moment in the battle, and they say you better or else, 99% of people will say, well, I don't want to die. So no, I didn't see Jesus die. I didn't see Jesus risen from the dead. I didn't. Nope. Well, that's a normal reaction. But these people did not do that. These people still proclaimed it and died for it.
I want to ask you a question. Christians later in history, right, died for their faith, right?
Christians are still dying for their faith. Have you?
No. But yeah, but Christians after Christians who never met Jesus have died for their faith, right?
Yeah. So
it's possible that they did die for belief, right? Because they never met Jesus, right?
Yeah. I'm talking about how Christianity got started. Christianity
sure.
Didn't get started because of belief. Christianity got off the ground because of what they claim to have seen. That's the difference between Christianity and every other religion. Every other religion is based off of the belief. Christianity is the only one that's not rooted off of belief. It's rooted off of what they said they saw. That's
right. Right, but you accept that like people can die for a belief.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they can.
Right. So my thing is,
I agree with you. That doesn't make it true.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying
I'm
that
not talking about belief. I'm talking about what I said I saw. I said that I saw this man run across my room, and you say you better say you didn't see him run across your room. That's not a belief. I'm making a claim that that this did in fact happen. That's not a belief.
So what I'm saying though is that can someone say they saw something and be wrong about what they saw?
You wouldn't die for it.
No. I'm just asking the question. Could someone say they saw something and firmly think they saw it but be wrong?
Yeah, but you wouldn't die for it.
But if they thought they saw Jesus rise, but it turns out they were wrong, you would say yes, they would still die for it. Okay. Because it's a mistake. It's a mistaken thing. They were honestly mistaken. It's not a belief.
So what you're telling me is something supernatural happened to where all these people believed that they saw some. All of them were hallucinating.
No, not at all. I'm just trying to like drill down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when people say like I saw, like what they talk about, the 500 who saw Jesus rise.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if that's true or not. We don't know if 500 people saw him.
We do. They were dying for it. They were persecuted.
No, okay. Give me one name. Give me one name of those 500.
Acts mentions it.
What's one name of those 500, and when did they die?
Stephen. Stephen is actually the one who Paul himself saw. This was the start of Paul converting. Paul was there when Stephen was martyred for his faith.
So was Stephen one of the 500?
Yeah, Stephen would be considered one of the 500. Stephen was was the one who was martyred, and Paul himself was there.
Let's see here.
Type in Stephen the Christian martyr, and Paul was there.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where in the Bible it talks about Stephen. Let's see here. Do you know which verse or what book it talks about Stephen?
I'll give it for you.
Let's see, Stephen, martyr. Saint Stephen, first century deacon in Jerusalem, is revered as a Christian martyr. Stoned to death around 34 or 35 after being accused of blasphemy.
When? It's at 34 35, right?
Yeah, 34 or 35.
It's right after when they said Jesus died. So this is after his resurrection and his death. Stephen dies.
Okay. I'm reading it now. I'm reading Acts real quick. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham. So he's talking. He's going off on Abraham, Moses. Stephen talks a lot. Our ancestors obeyed him. Okay, so it has been made, but Solomon was built. The Most High does not live in houses made by humans, as the prophet said. You stick-necked people, your hearts are circumcised. Jesus, nice. Look,
Are you just trying to find it here? I'll pull it up for you.
Yeah, it's look. This is like Acts 7 is where they talk about Stephen.
Yeah, I'll pull it up for you right here. Look, I already have it for you. Here. Stephen the martyr. When they heard these things, they were cut to the heart, and they gnashed at him with their teeth. But he, being full of the Holy Spirit, gazed into the heaven and saw the glory of God and Jesus standing at the right hand of God, and said, Look, I see the heavens opened and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God. Yeah. Then they cried out with a loud voice, stopped their ears, and ran at him with one accord. And they cast out at him of the city, stoned him, and the witnesses laid down their clothes at the feet of a young man named Saul. This is Paul. And they stoned Stephen as he was calling on God, saying, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. And then he knelt down and cried out with a loud voice, Lord, do not charge them with this sin. And when he had said this, he fell asleep. So Saul, if you do research, Saul is actually Paul.
Oh yeah, he changed his name to Paul. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, before he converted. So Paul was there when Stephen was martyred.
Okay, but he's not part of the 500 that...
Because he believed Jesus was God.
Right, but he's not part of the 500 that's covered in Corinthians, right? That's not talking about the same thing. The 500 in Corinthians isn't...
No, I'm talking about this. He's included in multiple people after Jesus' resurrection who's seen him.
Oh no, sorry. I was talking about in Corinthians where it says, Paul says there was 500 people who saw Jesus, and then you brought up Stephen, and I was like, is Stephen part of the same people in Corinthians?
He would be considered part of the people who saw Jesus after the resurrection. Yes.
No, I mean the 500 in Corinthians. That's what I was asking about. Like this group
what
of
does that matter? What does that matter?
Oh, because what I was saying is like we have the story of Stephen, great. But then Paul also says things like, 500 people states that, Jesus appeared to 500 people at once. That's a big claim. And so I would be like, great. So what were the names of these 500 people who in this story Jesus appeared to? And we don't have any. He just says, hey, 500 people, which is a weirdly odd round number.
You're going to name 500 people?
Oh, no, I don't any. I'm just like, was there any follow-up? Like, do we have any historical evidence that that's true, that 500 people saw it, besides Paul's claim?
I'm at the point where I think it doesn't matter what evidence there's.
Oh, no, but sorry. My point...
It doesn't matter. If it's 500 people, if you see 500 people at a concert, are you going to go line by line and say, hey, what's your name? Or what's your name? Or are you going to say, it was this many people at the concert?
I agree. I was just saying that, like, when I see these things mentioned, you're asking, like, how, am I being hypocritical when I say I'm not going to take certain things from the Bible true and other things not? In the same way that Vespasian did things in groups of like hundreds of people, you were like, well, who were these people? When did it happen? I'm like, I don't know. But the Bible also says times 500 people saw it. And I'm like, well, who were these people? How do we know? You're like, man, who can keep track?
We know who they are. They were Messianic Jews.
No,
so we do know who they are. We don't know them by name, but we know the group of who they are. Yes.
Sure. And the people that Vespasian cured and all the people around them were Hellenistic Greeks. Like, we know some things about them maybe, but I don't know if that's true or not. That's all I was saying is like, I doubt Vespasian for the same reason I doubt Jesus' miracles. I'm not being inconsistent. It's not enough to say that like a crowd of people saw miracles, therefore I should believe. Because I don't believe Vespasian.
That's the point that I'm getting at. The point that I'm getting at is, if the Bible didn't have supernatural in it, most atheists would say, oh, yeah, I think the Bible is real. But because it has supernatural in it, you're like, no, I can't take that for face value.
Oh no, not at all.
I've never seen a miracle.
No, I haven't seen a miracle. But my point is like, here's the thing:
have you ever seen a baby born?
Here, if you tell me that I should believe in
a miracle, a baby being born is a miracle.
If you tell me I should believe in supernatural events, right? Then I'm like, okay, so then it is allowable that Joseph Smith may have been visited by an angel, that Muhammad could be the last prophet of God, and that the Greek gods could be real. I have to start with the assumption that these stories could be true, right?
Yes.
Right.
And that's what the point of what I'm talking about being honest. That's what I did. I started before I even came to Christianity, before I gave my life to Christ. That's exactly where I started. I said, it's possible that Islam could be true. And I researched it. I said, it's possible that Judaism could be true. It's possible that Hinduism could be true. So I look into all of them instead of saying, no, it's not possible. None of these things are not possibly true. That's intellectually dishonest. If you want to actually find out if something is true or not, you go in and say, it's possible that these could be true. Let me see if I can debunk its truth. It's not true. So therefore I decline it.
Oh, sure. I don't think I've ever told someone that just because a story has a supernatural element, I reject it out of hand.
But that's what you're saying. You're saying you reject it because it has supernatural in it. Why? Because you don't believe supernatural things can happen, right?
Yeah. So I have to have better evidence. I mean, you could say like if someone's position is like, hey, supernatural things can happen all the time, and you have to be open.
That's the point of it being supernatural. It's not something that happens all the time. That's the point of the miracle. It doesn't. But
it's possible, yeah. But
that's why I said I'll give you a perfect example of a miracle. A baby. You want to know why that's a miracle?
No.
Because a baby being born is a miracle. And you said, well, it has to be repeatable. No, we're not talking about science. We're talking about miracles. You produce yourself twice. I want to see, for me to believe that foul wind actually exists, I want you to give me a second you. Produce you again.
I can't do that. I'm not sure why you're asking me of that.
Because we're talking about a miracle. A baby being born is a miracle because you cannot do it again. I can't produce another foul wind. It's impossible. This is a miracle. It's not something that is repeatable. Repeatable is science. You being born was a miracle because I can't repeat it. I can't duplicate you again. Doesn't matter how hard I try. You can't even duplicate it if you have a child. They're going to have their own DNA. I want you to produce yourself again.
Wait. I don't know why science doesn't say you have to be able to duplicate the thing you're studying. That's not what science says.
That would be us talking about science.
Well, I don't know why you're asking me to like duplicate myself.
Because you said you've never seen a miracle, and I just in fact proved to you that you yourself as a human being are a miracle, because you said, oh, I need to see that it's repeatable. That's what you said. You said, I need to see that it's repeatable. And I'm telling you that's the point of a miracle. It's not repeatable. I think there might be some confusion here. What I said was science just has to be able to repeat the experiment, not that it has to repeat what it's studying. But No. Before that, you said, I don't believe in miracles because I need to see that it's repeatable. That's what you said.
No, you can't. You can play back, watch it later. And if I did, I must have really been speaking out of my head. But I would never say that because history can't be repeatable, right? Like I know that. Like you can't, like even your own life. If you're like, I got into a car crash, we can't repeat the car crash you were in from 20 years ago. So I would never say I don't believe your car crash because we can't repeat it. I know miracles. I would never say I don't believe in miracles because we can't repeat them. That would be silly. So maybe you misheard me, but
why do you reject miracles?
Oh, so really quick, I don't see them happening around me. Now, hold off on the baby talk for a second, if you would. Like, I don't see, gods coming down and doing things. I don't see people being struck by lightning. I don't see miracles every day.
People struck by lightning in real life.
Well, that's true. Okay, fair enough. But deliberately by a god on a cloud throwing the lightning bolt. You know what I mean? But like, I don't see these supernatural things happening. But that doesn't mean they didn't happen in the past, right? That's totally 100%. And a lot of miracles, like Christians will say, my aunt was cured of cancer. I have no way of disproving that a god or angel or devil didn't heal someone's cancer. So like I would never, like I get that, right? I'm just saying that like I haven't seen any evidence of miracles that's convincing to me. And the natural explanations for why miracles are in these older stories, these religions, the more I learn, the more it seems to be man-made to me. The man-made explanation seems more compelling to me, but like that's all I can say. Okay. I can't say miracles don't happen, dude.
I won't use babies. I'll give you another miracle. I won't use children. I'll give you another. Sure. How do you believe the earth came about?
My understanding, and I default to people, is that there was at one point a lot of debris, gravity attracted it, accretion disk, eventually we get a planet, a moon, those bang around for a while, and then they settle into a pretty stable orbit, and we've got a planet.
So, okay, so you believe that this matter and atoms and neutrons and energy collaborated together to produce this, correct?
No, atoms don't think, so there's no collaboration.
What in the atmosphere of the universe thinks? There's nothing inside of the sun doesn't think, does it?
I know I didn't say it did, so I don't know why.
So what I'm saying is, how was it produced with no thinking mind?
Oh sure, gravity for this particular example is the main thing.
You just said that no, it didn't get produced that way through atoms because it doesn't think. Gravity doesn't think either.
No, it's a force. What I'm saying is like matter was drawn together. Gravity pulls it together because it's a force of nature. And when you get enough matter, you get a planet. That's all.
Okay. So what I'm saying is the same thing. So you're stating this happened without a thinking conscience, right?
Yeah.
That's a miracle. Why is that a miracle? What you just stated to me is that something that cannot think, something that has no mind, produce beings that have thinking minds. That's impossible.
Well,
name me an example of something that cannot think that produced something.
Sure.
With a thinking mind.
Well, I would use people as an example of that. But my point was like when we see snowflakes.
People are not examples of that because you come from your mother and your father who have thinking minds.
Yeah, but we're made of atoms, right? We're made of atoms.
You come from your mother and your father who have thinking minds.
What does that have to? But we're all made of matter.
That's not an example of you coming from something that doesn't have a thinking mind.
So you're asking about like where'd life come from, right? Can life come from non-life? Is what you're really asking about, right?
No, what I'm asking, what I'm trying to show you is you believe in something that's a miracle.
No, hold on. Like, let me just walk this back. You asked me, where did the planet come from? I said, I accept the scientific consensus that matter got together, formed the sun, formed the earth.
And produced thinking people.
Yeah, and so you're asking about, and then over time, the earth became habitable or conducive to life forming. Now, whether that life started here or came from an asteroid out of space from somewhere else, scientists discuss that. They found proteins and the like in, space rocks, not from Earth, panspermia theory, all of that. But at some point, life developed on the planet, and eventually we had thinking life. That's I'm fine with that. I've seen no problem.
That's a miracle. What you just stated to me is a miracle. You just stated, well, eventually something that couldn't think learned how to think. That's a miracle to me.
You can define it as such as you want. It doesn't bother me. I don't think it was supernatural.
So you believe in miracles?
No, because that's not how I define. That's not my definition of a miracle.
You just stated that something that cannot think produced something that can think.
Yeah, but that's not a miracle. So let me ask you this: like, you don't think snowflakes are designed, right? You believe snowflakes are complex things that come from natural processes, right? Right? I mean, you accept that there's complexity in the universe that doesn't have a mind behind it, right?
Let's look at definition. A surprising and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws, not natural, by natural or scientific laws, and therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. That's one example. There's another example. A highly improbable or extraordinary event, development, or accomplishment that brings very welcoming consequences. So what you are stating is, because you won't believe this because you don't believe in divine agency. But this is in fact miracle. You believe in something that is highly improbable of an extraordinary event that was accomplished. So therefore, your belief in how the world was created is a miracle.
I'm fine using that word. The reason I said I don't use it is because for me, miracle
Because it
is
doesn't
tied.
align with atheism. That's why.
No, it's tied to supernatural. Like if someone says
Exactly. It doesn't align with atheism.
well, no, if you want to say like, no, I mean, this is this weird thing where I feel like you're trying to like play a definitional game. All I'm saying is like when I use the word miracle, right? I just mean I don't think a God did it.
No, the reason I'm not trying to play a word game, I'm trying to get you to see that you believe in miracles just like I do. You just don't want to call it miracles because it doesn't align with atheism, because atheism doesn't use the word miracles because they think of that miracle word as divine. You just said it as divine agency, but in fact, miracle is something that is improbable. Is it a highly unlikely thing that Jesus was raised from the dead? I'm going to use an atheistic word definition of miracle. Is it highly improbable that Jesus was risen from the dead? Yes. So it was still a miracle, whether I put divine agency there or no divine agency there. It's highly improbable, therefore it's still a miracle.
Oh, I'm fine with that definition. The only reason I pushed back on miracle is that I think most people you asked of faith, if you said like is a miracle of God creating Adam the same type of miracle as a snowflake being unique and being formed, I think most people of faith would say, no, it's not the same. It's more special when God created Adam, which was, again, unlikely.
A snowflake is not highly improbable.
Because every snowflake is unique, right?
And snow happens all the time, so it's not a highly improbable event.
But every snowflake is unique, right?
But it's not. Snow is not a highly improbable event.
But every individual snowflake.
For example.
Wait, hold on. Wait, just let me make this one point. Is every snowflake unique?
Is every snowflake unique?
Yeah, let's say if it's true that every snowflake, there's never been in the history of the world two snowflakes that are identical. Let's just say that's the case, right? Just right now. That means every snowflake is improbable because it's never, ever the same snowflake that's ever existed anywhere else. So in of itself, now you're right, snow happens, right? I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that one snowflake, if this is true, is 100% unique in all of known human history. That makes it improbable, yet it happens every day, right? A person being struck by lightning is improbable, right? It's wildly improbable. But there are natural explanations for why people get struck, right? That's all I'm pointing out is that if you tell me, hey, is it a miracle?
That's what I'm saying. If it's not natural, you deny it.
Well, no, I'm just saying I haven't been convinced by it. Like I'm not saying miracles can't exist, dude. Like that's not my position. I'm saying if someone says a miracle has happened in a religious, supernatural sense, I need a bit more convincing than saying snow fell.
Miracles can exist, but only outside of religion.
No. Well, again, this is this weird thing. Like when I say miracles, I mean something involving the supernatural. If you mean something different, let's not use the word miracles.
No, that's what you just said. You said when you're speaking about miracles, you're talking about things outside of religion.
No, I'll be very clear. When I say miracles, I mean like supernatural miracles. That's all I mean when I say miracles. That's it.
And I just gave you an example of a supernatural miracle that's outside of religion. You just said
Wait, what did you give me?
You gave it to me. No, you gave it to me. You said I believe the world came from non-thinking and eventually turned into thinking. That's a miracle. There's no examples that you can give me where something that cannot think produced something that thinks. But so you believe in a miracle that's outside of religion.
I want to ask you a serious question. What does science say? Wait. Just I need you to answer this. What does science say?
You didn't deal with what I just stated.
I'm trying to explain something. Just give me a little bit of leeway here. When it comes to life coming on this planet, what does science say about it? You tell me. Like, give me the best definition, the best explanation of life, of thinking life coming from non-thinking matter according to science. Just tell me what you think it is.
According to science,
Yeah, like if you asked a biologist who was studying abiogenesis, where did life come from the primordial soup, what would they say? Tell me, like, give me the best version of this.
Big Bang.
No. Big Bang was about the start of the universe. I'm saying like on the
We,
planet.
we are in the universe. That's
I
where
know, but on the planet Earth,
that's where the belief came from.
on the planet Earth, tell me, what does science say about where life may have come from when there was no thinking creatures, to how do we get to the earliest forms of life? Like what is the earliest form of life? You tell me, what's the earliest form of life that scientists say existed?
Nah, I don't know. All I know is Adam and Eve. That's all I know.
All right. I think we'll stop the conversation here because it doesn't seem you can tell me what scientists actually think. And so when you say things like...
You can't tell me where you just said that.
Wait, do you think the earliest form of lives were thinking?
Yeah, Adam and Eve. God told
No. But no, according to science.
I don't care what science says. God told us Adam
Then we're good. We're good.
He told us Adam and Eve.
We can stop right here because you're not arguing with me about what science says. You don't care what science says, so I don't think I'll try to explain science then, because you don't seem to care about it, which is fine, just fine. But it's just weird that you're like, it's a miracle that like thinking things came from non-thinking things. And I was trying to tell you that like the first life on this planet would not have been like a rabbit or a person. It would have been something, just a group of a chain of molecules, proteins. That was the first form of life that we're talking about. It's not like they were saying rabbits came from nowhere or people came from rocks. That's not what science says. So
as a rock is no different than something that's a atom that can't think. They both can't think.
I'll do this last thing and then I can say I'll concede your point.
Because a rock has matter made up of atoms too, right?
Is a virus alive?
I'm asking,
rocks are made of matter. Yep, matter.
Yeah. So what makes us different than rocks? We're both the same matter. So why can't rocks think?
Well, we generally see it requires a brain to think. Rocks don't seem to have a brain. But my question to you is a virus alive? Is a virus a living creature? Like viruses that you get colds and stuff like that. Is it alive?
Is a virus alive? I mean, technically.
No, is it alive? Yes or no?
Yeah, technically it's bacteria.
Okay, does it have a brain? Does it think?
Yeah, they have brain. They have membranes. They have cells. Yeah.
No. I said a brain. Does it have a brain?
Yes, it has a brain. It's not the same type of brain we have, but yes, it does. It has a membrane.
What type of brain does it have?
It has a membrane.
No, a membrane is a covering. A membrane is like a skin. A skin is a membrane. I'm saying like a brain, does it have like a brain like we have? Can it think like we do?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't think like we do. No.
Right. So you've just told me that there are things. You're telling me that there's things that can be alive but don't think.
No, I didn't say don't think. I said it doesn't think like us.
So what does it think like?
That's what I said.
What does a virus think like? Does it have memories?
A virus thinks to cast itself upon an agent. It thinks.
So you think it has conscious choice?
No, I didn't say conscious. I didn't say it thinks like us. I said it does think. It doesn't think like us. We're conscious, but
how does it?
It doesn't think like us.
What? We think with our brains, right? What does a virus think with?
Its brain.
So if I look up and say, what is the brain of a virus, I'll find something?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you will. I'm not a scientist scholar. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking up this because my point in all this is to go that like the earliest forms of life did not have brains. That's not what's needed to have a form of life. Plants.
I didn't say brain. You
right.
brought
So
brain. I said thinking.
Right. So the earliest form of life may not have been thinking, but was still alive. Correct. Like if a plant came before mammals, a plant's alive, but it doesn't have a brain. It doesn't think, right? Right? Plants don't think, right?
Plants don't.
It's not a trap question. Plants don't think, right?
Yeah, I truly don't know.
Right. So can we assume for a second that plants don't think? Is that fine? Is that a big problem?
Well, no, I wouldn't necessarily say that because there's plants that we can presume does think, like Venus flytraps. They're a plant. But
they have reactions, like they have stimuli, right? But they don't think. Plants don't have brains. You know that, right? Like there's no brain inside of a weed, right? A piece of grass doesn't think, right?
I didn't say brain. I said think.
Okay. Does a blade of grass think? Like how far down do you have to deny this before we get to some form of life that doesn't think? Like does a blade of grass think?
Because I'm saying I really don't.
Sure. And so I think what you're encountering is, I think you're beginning to realize that my point is that if the first life on the planet was like a blade of grass or something even simpler, it would not have been a thinking thing. Brains would not have been around yet.
We're not talking about a blade of grass because blade of grass is still here. We're talking about a human being who does think.
No, but wait, hold on. Wait, just one last, you're jumping ahead. I'm saying, like, if life eventually got more, if life got more and more complex, life may have started with something that had no brain.
Complex how?
What's that?
Complex how?
Oh, in terms of its structure. So, like, I'm saying, like we're complex, right? But a virus is less complex than us, right?
So that means our form would be different than their form, even from the beginning, correct?
No, what I'm saying, this is weird. Yes, humans are more complex than a virus, right?
So that means it's from beginning, its form, its creation of the human was already different from the form and the creation already from a virus.
Wait, are you talking about the Bible now? You said creation. I don't know what you mean by creation.
I'm talking about the makeup of a human being.
Yeah.
Right? Even from the beginning, the makeup of a human being has to be different than the makeup of a virus, even from the beginning.
No.
So
wait, did you know how common ancestry works?
So then why? Oh yeah, we talked about evolution.
Yeah. So I'll just say this. I would say, even if you don't believe it, if you want to really give the best argument against evolution, go ask a biologist. Go to a high school or college and say, what was the earliest form of life that scientists think we could consider living creatures, right? What's the earliest thing? I was shocked by this. You know how they show you those cells in like middle school where you look at the cell of a plant and it has all these different parts? So that little cell is 1,000 times more complex than what they're talking about when they say life started on the planet. We're talking about chains of amino acids duplicating. That level of that is what, and so it's like, is that alive?
That sounds like a miracle to me. You're saying
no. So
we started from atoms and pieces and
this is the great thing.
And we developed into now where we can have sex and birth people. That sounds like a miracle.
You said this is perfect. You said that like snow is not a miracle because even if every snowflake is unique, there's a bunch of snow always happening around the world, right?
Because it's not an improbable event.
No, but any individual snowflake is because they're unique, right? Like it just
the production of the snowflake the snowflake only exists because the event that is not improbable occurs. If snow doesn't occur, there's no snowflakes being produced.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, right? So there's conditions that allow for snow, right? Yeah, right. But that itself is improbable in a naturalistic worldview. Why should there ever be snow? Like why does this planet have snow? The fact that we have a snowflake at all is a very unique thing, right?
It sounds like a miracle, right?
Right. But we don't really go around going, look at that snowflake, that's a miracle, because snow happens all the time. Snow's possible in a lot of places, right? Yeah, so my point is that when we talk about the earliest forms of life, if these were just proteins starting to duplicate, if this was like the earliest form of life, if the conditions on the earth were such that like there was a large opportunity for these things to happen, proteins to duplicate imperfectly, heat from the bottom of the ocean, heat from the sun. If there was a perfect conditions where like what we think as life, the earliest forms of life could start forming, and there was a massive amount of opportunity for it to do so over a long period of time, then it doesn't sound that unlikely because we're like
unlikely because what you're stating is, but based off of your analogy, based off of your thought process, then snow can turn into a human being too.
No, why would I?
Because snow is made up of atoms. Snow is made up of all these different things that you said. It's not a human yet, but eventually it will become one. That's a miracle. In order for this to happen, what you're stating is a miracle. It started from this, which is technically nothing that can't think. So based off of your theory, based off of your analysis, a snowflake can eventually, over time, as it develops, could become a human as well.
I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't continue this. You're using examples that are like not what science says.
Because no one says it doesn't make sense.
So let me ask this: how long do you think
we came from atoms that produced us? So does
wait, no, wait. Stop. I never said an atom produced us at all. Wait, listen.
Where did we come from? That's why I said the Big Bang. We all came from something.
No, but This
What
is
is
so.
that? What is that something?
So I'm asking you, do you think when scientists say that we share common ancestors, that like an ape popped out a human? Is that what you think we're saying?
No, when I say that, I'm stating that this is not accurate, because if this were true, then why are we, if evolution and all this stuff is true,
Yeah.
why are we human beings and apes are still apes?
We're apes. We are apes.
No, we're
Apes.
not.
Yeah, humans are
No,
classified
we're not.
as one of the great apes.
We don't think the same way as apes.
That's
We don't talk the same way as apes. We have conscious different than apes. Have you? I
that's
mentioned to you
what
last time. Have
what
you
you're
ever seen an atheist ape?
what you're saying is not a scientific standard.
Have you ever?
No,
seen
no, wait.
an ape?
I'm not trying to answer because like I'm talking about science here. It's not about your opinion of what
Dude,
science should
I'm
do.
talking about what science is stating is the truth, and I'm showing you why it can't be the truth. Because humans and apes are different.
Why do scientists call humans apes?
All I'm stating to you is that apes and humans, they think and their conscience are different. You've never seen an ape atheist, and you've never seen an ape Christian.
That's not a standard for science. What I'm saying is like I'm asking you why are humans classified? Wait,
we're different. We're different than them.
We're exactly, and we're different than chimpanzees. That's fine. But I'm asking you is like why do scientists classify humans in the great ape category?
Because they can see apes here and they're trying to prove that God doesn't exist. That's all that it is.
All right. I'm going to step away because I think that kind of tells me you've never actually looked into the science of it, and you're presupposing something. And I don't think it's fair to ask that. It's kind of like if someone said,
I'm going based off of what even scientists in the field have said. Doctors and scientists, you can go look at the interviews of these guys. They say to be a believer in this field is almost impossible or hard, because almost all of them are atheists. So they're coming from a biased perspective. They're trying to debunk God. That's all that they're trying to do.
1 second. Who was the guy who discovered who did the DNA sequencing? Francis. What was his name? Francis. He did the DNA sequencing on humans. DNA sequence on humans. Francis. God. Francis Collins, right? He did the Human Genome Project, right? He's a Christian. He accepts evolution perfectly fine. In fact, he was in charge of sequencing the human genome, right? So he's a Christian. He accepts evolution.
He's a Christian.
He's not an atheist.
No, he's a Christian evolutionist.
Oh, that's fine. Like if you want to judge people against that, he's a Christian. He has no problem with evolution. Here's my thing is like basically what you've just told me is like I don't know why humans are classified as apes. I don't know what the earliest forms of life is. Your core position seems to be anything a scientist says that doesn't agree with your view of how life started has to be because they're atheist and they are trying to undermine religion.
No, what I'm stating is their claims that they are making make no sense, because they're stating we came from nothing that can think and it produced something that can think. That makes zero sense.
Over how long?
It doesn't matter how long. Give me an example.
Okay, no,
where
it's okay.
Something that doesn't think can produce something that thinks.
We can be done here. We can be done here. I think there's just a case of like you're not interested in what science has to say, and that's okay. Like it's fine. But I would say like if you're not interested in it, it just seems weird that you keep talking about it in an incorrect way.
Well, because you're stating something that's incorrect. You literally say yourself, the earth was built based off of all these different things that turned into us. So what you're claiming is in fact a miracle, a highly improbable event of something that cannot think produce thinking things. You said, well, it was over time. It doesn't matter if it was over time.
We are the example that think or any animal. If you think cats can think, cats are an example, not just humans. Like anything that can think. But also we see things.
Cats are born. Cats don't come from things that can't think. Cats are born from other cats.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying it's not just humans that can think, right?
Even their parents think too.
Right. So can bugs think?
Yeah, you see ants all the time. They can produce all types of huts. They know how to make stuff. They think, but they come from their parents as well.
Right. And then we have grass, which can't think, but is alive, right?
Sure.
Okay, so obviously you can be alive and some things think and some don't. You can have viruses which multiply, reproduce, but they don't think. But they're very simple things. So all I'm saying is like going from like if we accept that, like, for example, you have no problem, like in an atheistic worldview, if there's no thinking things on a planet, you're like, yeah, like maybe unthinking things could evolve, right? Like you don't have a problem with like grass evolving, right? If we just said, hey, humans were created by God, but grass came from natural phenomena, just hypothetically, you wouldn't object that like unthinking things can come from evolution, right? Because they don't think. That's your big point, right?
No, my biggest point, truthfully, my biggest point is I cannot accept human beings coming from unthinkable things. Then we have a thinking brain. That's my whole premise.
That's and that's fine. And I would say that science has answers for that, but I think you would never accept them if that's your default position. It wouldn't matter what was shown to you. You would never accept it, and that's fine. That's a good thing to know, right?
Like, no, it would matter, but no matter what they show, they're never going to be able to prove where we came from. They will not.
I disagree. I think they can show pretty good evidence that it's where we came from.
Where do we come from?
So I would say if all life went back to like a common ancestor, an unthinking common ancestor, right? Let's for the hypothetical, life at some point, thinking creatures started. The brain, whatever it was used for, eventually started being used for thinking, right? And eventually we got some thinking creatures, and we have unthinking creatures. What I would say is like, hey,
wait. That's the part where I'm. How are we getting from non-thinking to thinking?
That's what I'm gonna say. So like, let's say at some point there had to be a bridge, right? There has to be some evidence.
There had to be a miracle that happened.
Sure. But let's keep miracle out just for a second, because like I said, for me it has connotations. But there had to be an unlikely event where somehow something that we don't normally would say is thinking developed a brain or the ability to think, right? That's what we need, right? We would need evidence of that, right? But that's what you want, right? Scientists should show evidence of going from non-thinking to quote unquote thinking, right? That's what we should see if it happened, right?
Sure. Yeah. Actually.
Right. So what I would say is like, if I'm looking at the natural world and there's non-thinking, there's thinking things, there's a variety of life. If it all goes back in the past, it has to get simpler going back in the past, right? You can't start complex if it's a natural thing. You don't have like a human popping out as soon as the planet cooled. It would have to be simpler and simpler life forms going back to like the most simple life we could imagine if evolution is true. Like if things happen over billions or millions of years and it was slow process, we got to see like life getting less complex going back in time, right? Does that make sense?
Not really, honestly, because all that it sounds like is. All it sounds like is the same reason you're rejecting my Bible is the same reason I'm rejecting your scientists. They don't know. I'm saying I'm reading these books and it makes no sense to me because they're saying a human being that can think came from non-thinking things and developed. That sounds like a miracle. And you're saying I don't believe in the Bible because Jesus can't resurrect because I don't believe in the supernatural, while explaining something supernatural of non-thinking developing into thinking.
Yeah, developing, right.
Somehow.
Right. And so, but there should be evidence of that, right? Like we should see evidence of developing creatures going from non-thinking to thinking, right? That makes sense. Like if it's true, if scientists are right, they have to be able to point out where that happened, right? In the history of life, right? That's a requirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if we're saying that like, hey, life was getting simpler in the past, right? Because there was less complex, there was less diversity, yada, yada, yada. There should be a point where scientists can point out and say, hey, the earliest forms of thinking things that weren't previously thinking, even if this happened over like a couple million years, there should be a section of history where we see non-thinking connecting to thinking, right? We have to have that transition, right? That's true, right? That's just has to be the case. We can't ignore that, right?
Yes, we have to see how people went from non-thinking to
okay. So we don't have to do people because we've agreed like it could not be people. It could be like a mouse, right? It doesn't have to be a person. A mouse thinks, right? It doesn't have to be people. It doesn't have to be monkeys. It doesn't have to be chimpanzees.
No, but that's what I said. I said my whole premise is about people. I can't agree with humans coming from non-thinking to thinking.
Oh, so okay, that's perfect. So you're fine with like everyday apes could have evolved because that's fine, but humans couldn't because we are different than apes. Is that your position? Is that correct?
Not necessarily, but for the most part, for lack of argument, yes. What I'm stating is
Perfect.
Human beings are unique to anything on the planet.
Right. So is there any way, like, evolution makes a prediction. If we're part of the great apes, right, there has to be evidence that we came from them. That's like locked and solid, right? There has to be good evidence.
I don't agree with that.
Well, but no, evolution has to say that. Evolution has to show that we're related to the great apes if it wants to make a claim that we're an ape. It has to show why we're an ape, right? You can't just say it with no evidence, right? Evolution has to explain it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this, and maybe next time we can do a whole episode on this where I'm better prepared. But I would say, like, if you saw evidence that said, hey, humans did come from the apes because of these things that people can test, that show we came from apes, would, within science, like, would you then go, okay, I don't accept evolution, but at least they do have a good reason to say we came from other apes? Like,
no, I understand the evolutionists. They do have a good reasoning why we came from apes. I don't deny that. What I'm stating is,
okay.
If this is true, why are the apes still not humans yet? We still have apes to this day. Why are they perfect. Not? Why are they not humans?
Yeah. So great question. I would first say, and I'll answer your question. I'm not trying to avoid it. I would say my understanding is scientists are like the fact that we're smart. And by the way, we weren't the only smart apes. There were other types of like like Neanderthals, right? Neanderthals weren't people.
They just didn't evolve. We did.
Well, no, remember. So here's the thing. This is a really big thing. Evolution doesn't have a goal. There's no such thing as something being more or less evolved than anything else. Like, it's not better inherently to be smart.
But we're the same. We're apes just like they're apes, essentially, right?
Oh yeah, no, we have ape ancestors, but our branching of apes, we focused on the brain. We got smarter, and we weren't the only ones to do it.
How?
Again,
how?
Oh, so are you familiar with genetic pressures, like pressures in the environment, and why things are favored by random mutations? Are you aware of how that works in evolution?
No.
Okay, so and you know what? And if you say I got to go, I don't want to talk about evolution all night. That's fine. I know it's late. You got kids. I'll say this. I would look into this. So for the same reason that like scientists are like, hey, why did this moth species all of a sudden its wings went black? Why did that happen? And you find out, oh, there was soot in the area from factories. The birds could not see the moths with darker wings against the soot, so they survived longer. So there's pressures in the environment.
That's not.
No. I'm not saying it's entirely the same thing. But what I'm saying is, if you know, apes are pretty smart. They're clever, right? They can make tools, simple tools.
Yeah, like, but what you're saying right there, even in that example, right? That moth whose wings went from this to black, it's still a moth.
Oh, I agree.
It didn't go from a moth to a rat.
Well, yeah, and remember, scientists says we're still apes, even though there are other apes. It does say we're still apes. We're smart apes. So we have to ask, why did intellect become the biggest factor to our survival, right? Because not all apes go through this, right? Other apes aren't as smart as us, right? That's 100% true. No one denies that. So there should be some evidence of where and when our ancestors, if they were apes, all of a sudden there was a pressure to be smarter more than anything else. There has to be a reason. We didn't get smarter if there was no reason, right?
So do we know the first ape?
No,
the first ape that was a human.
I don't think so, because we're still apes. We're not, humans are still apes. So you can't say like, when did we stop being apes? Because we are still apes.
What you're stating, we should know, because we're stating that we went from this to this. So we should know where that bridge went from this.
Oh, broadly, yes. Broadly, we have to look back in the record and say during this time period, like we're never going to get, like you said, you're never going to know the exact day, right? We're not going to know
that theory of evolution is the same thing as the Bible.
No. In some ways, you're right. Like you said, remember when I said, like, hey, what are the 500? You're like, brother, no one went back and can get the 500 individual names. So scientists are like, we don't know the day or month, but there's got to be a record in history with evidence of whatever millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years, there has to be a point where we can go back and say, this is when intelligence was more selected for survival, and we have to have an explanation of why, right? Because it didn't happen randomly. So what I've got you down to is like...
Sounds a lot like the Bible that you guys...
Oh, sure it does. But what I've got you down to is saying, listen, like, if scientists have an explanation and evidence of where and when and why our ancestors were forced to or were better surviving by getting smarter, then you would be like, at least you have some good evidence, right? At least there's a scientific reason why we got smarter versus the other apes. And I'm fine getting that.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
When do they think we evolved?
Oh, sure. So let me pull, my understanding again, for Homo erectus, which is basically humans these days, I think it goes back, I think about 300,000 to 450,000 years is kind of where they put the next like shift. So
hold on. 350,000
years. Yeah.
Okay. So you're telling me I should believe in something that happened 350,000 years ago, but yet not believe in something that happened 2,000 years ago because that information is inaccurate. But something from 350,000 years ago is definitely a fact.
Well,
this is crazy.
Hold on, wait. Hold on, like
that's a crazy comparison.
Wait, do you think
this is not true because we don't know when this happened. We don't know if he existed. We don't know this. We don't know that. But that happened 2,000 years ago. Yet we accept scientists that say these things occurred 350,000 years ago.
Wait,
but this is true. That sounds insane.
Wait.
That doesn't make zero sense.
So do you not know how we date rocks?
That makes zero sense.
Wait, but do you know how we date rocks? How they come up with these numbers?
What I'm stating here is, sir, do you realize you believe in something you're stating happened 350,000 years ago, and I'm stating something that happened 2,000 years ago? What is the probability that my information is more accurate than yours?
Well, we're not talking about the same subject. We're talking about stories versus the study of like...
I understand we're not talking about the same subject, but you just stated before this, right? Well, we don't know if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are accurate because they were written in 70 AD. They were written in this period AD, right? So we're only talking 2,000 years ago, but yet you're telling me to believe in something that scientists are saying happened 300,000 years ago. That's insanity. That's insanity.
I don't think so because we're using different standards, different studies. Like here, for example,
we're using different standards because it aligns with yours that is not supernatural. So I can believe in something. It's not about the dates. It's not about when Jesus was written about. It's not when Jesus walked the earth. It's none of these things for you. It's about because it goes against the natural. You don't believe in supernatural. Therefore, it could happen yesterday. You would still reject it.
No,
it's not about that. I think you evolution from 300,000 years ago.
I think you misconstrue. I'm not saying like Jesus wasn't God because I don't believe in the supernatural. That's not my position. You know that, right?
You said you don't believe in the supernatural.
Yeah, but that's not what I said. Like I don't believe in the supernatural, but that's not my reason for saying that. Like
miracles.
No. I think this might be hard to understand. Like. The definition of supernatural is an extremely rare event, right? And within theology, it's caused by a divine.
That's miracle.
What's what we were talking about, miracles. You said I didn't believe in miracles. So
I'm saying you reject the Bible because it has
No. That's not why I reject the Bible. Like that's not why I reject it. Like that's a very weird thing to say.
If the Bible took out its supernatural aspects.
I still wouldn't accept all of it. No, that would be silly. It's like here's things like I don't accept like okay so
what outside of the supernatural
are you familiar with Plato?
Everything else would be history.
So let me put it this way: Plato wrote about Atlantis, right? I don't believe in Atlantis. He wrote about this continent where these people lived. I don't think he was writing about. I don't think that's true, and it has nothing to do with the supernatural.
Why don't you believe Atlantis is true? Because you can't go to Atlantis, right?
Well, it's not just that. It's that also that like we don't have good records for it, and other writings. It seems to be more of an allegory and things like that. So there's textual reasons to go. He was making a point about this, but yeah, I can't go there. But like even that's not too important.
We have writings and we have actual locations. Jerusalem.
Sure.
Egypt,
yeah.
Nazareth.
Oh, Spider-Man in Manhattan. Like I believe these. No. I'm serious. Like I believe these places existed.
You're doing the unicorn thing.
No. It's not a unicorn.
You can't compare unicorns and Spider-Man to the Bible and Jesus. Why?
Oh no.
Because your atheism is not based off of if Spider-Man is real or not. Your atheism is based off of there is no evidence for God, not there's no evidence for Spider-Man.
Oh no, there is evidence for God. There is evidence. No. Like my point was just that like I believe stories can have real places, but the stories themselves aren't true. That's all I meant. Is like I believe Jerusalem exists. I believe Egypt exists. Right? I don't say because they're in the Bible, I don't believe they're true.
Well, I'm saying you used Atlantis. That's why I brought up the location.
Oh yeah. So I just meant that there's like stories that ancient people told that are not about my savior and not even about miracles. They just said there was this other continent. I'm like, I don't think there was another continent. I mean, someone could say it sank under the waves. That's why you can't find it. I still don't think there was an Atlantis between me and you, even though it's not a miracle. It sank naturally. And it's just kind of a crazy claim that nobody seemed to notice this continent. And this one dude said it. I don't think it exists. That's all I meant by that. So I believe a lot of stuff in the Bible is true.
Because there's no evidence for Atlantis versus there's evidence for. Find me, not Christian, find me one skeptic or atheist scholar who can disprove the resurrection. Find me one.
I mean, I think the Bible itself just proves it pretty well. But if you're a literalist, if you're a literalist, that's all. Like yeah.
You don't believe in the Bible, so use your sources, which is your atheist scholars. Your atheist scholars need to disprove the resurrection.
Wait. Why do we need to disprove it though?
Because you said it's not true. You are saying Jesus is not God because he did not resurrect.
Oh, I think I mean he didn't. Other people resurrected. Like people have resurrected in the Bible. Like Lazarus. Lazarus got resurrected, right?
He wasn't resurrected. Resurrection is not the same thing as being brought back from the dead. Here, even the Bible teaches us this. Lazarus being raised from the dead, he wasn't resurrected. He was brought from the dead by Jesus. For example, Jesus was the miracle worker, which is why his is called a resurrection. That's the reason his is called a resurrection, because he was the miracle worker. Meaning, when he died, Lazarus did not raise him from the dead. Peter did not raise him from the dead. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not raise him from the dead. Whereas Lazarus, Jesus raised him from the dead. So it's not a resurrection. Jesus died and was not raised by someone else.
So that's your definition of resurrection? It has to be a self-resurrection?
No. Like, Jesus is the miracle worker. This is why he is the resurrection, because he is the one that died. He gave up his life. He states this. He states, I give up my life on my own accord, and I will take it up again. He's stating he's going to do both. He's stating, I will give up my own life, and I will take it up again. He's telling you two things. Lazarus never said, when I die, I'm going to bring my own life back again. Jesus is claiming, I'm going to die, and then I will bring myself back to life.
Okay,
that's the resurrection.
So other people who were brought back to life, you would not say they've been resurrected. But if they were brought to by God or by a prophet, they have not resurrected. What's the term you'd use? Just brought back to life?
I'll show you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're using it in a weird way. Like when I go to some places, they're like list of resurrections in the Bible. So you're using resurrection in a little way I'm not familiar with, which is fine.
Jesus is the only one. Jesus is the only one that is resurrection is used for. Even in the Bible, Lazarus, they didn't use the word resurrection for Lazarus. They did not.
Oh, you're basing it off of a specific. Okay, that's fine. I was just talking coming back from like I said, when I look at like there's a, the Bible, there's Bible websites like list of resurrections and it lists all these things. You're just saying, I would not call those resurrections. That was not the word used. Those were just people being brought back by God or a prophet. But only Jesus can we use the word resurrection. Got you. That's fine. I'll use it the way you're using it. Then that's fine.
Yeah. Jesus was because he was the miracle worker. Lazarus was being brought back by the person who can bring back life. Jesus is a resurrection because he is the one that has the authority to bring back up life, not anyone else. Jesus brings back his own life versus anyone else who's brought back. They're not brought back by their self. They're brought back by Jesus himself.
Or God, because there's times when God has let prophets resurrect people, or sorry, bring them back to life.
Well, Jesus is God. So
I disagree on that.
say,
I don't. I understand you do. Right. I got you. I got you. I got you.
yeah,
Okay.
when I say God, Jesus is God, and Jesus even claimed, he even stated, he said, "I and the Father are one." So, and depending on the context, you can either be talking to the Father or the Son or the Holy Spirit. There's many times where,
Yeah, I'm not a Trinitarian. I don't think Jesus ever said he was God, but that's a discussion for
well,
a
he
different
claimed it.
time.
That's why they tried to stone him.
I don't think he really did. I think this anyway. Why don't we set a different time to talk about that? That's a whole thing. And I like. There's been I've learned some fascinating things. Remember I said Joseph, or was it Joseph? Was it something of Alexandria? Who was it? The guy I told you to look up. Philo of Alexander, right? Look into him. He was developing logos theology before the authors of John. And there's some really interesting Greek parallels about roadside visitations and resurrections that seem to influence the gospel writings a version of like Jesus. It's really fascinating stuff from a scholarly standpoint, if not from a religious one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to give you some quick context before we get off.
Sure.
Is also just for clarity, another reason why Jesus is a resurrection and not Lazarus is because the resurrection is implying that you will not be able to die again.
Is it?
Yes. So, for example, Jesus, when he resurrects with no ability to die in the flesh again. He that's why he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. Anyone who believes in me will inherit eternal life." Because what he's stating is that his believers will one day actually resurrect again. So though we die in the flesh, he's stating, though you die in the flesh, there's going to come a time when I return, I will actually resurrect you, and you will come back into your flesh, never being able to die again. This is why I say why I follow Christ, because he's promising for us to resurrect like he did, meaning he's going to make us eternal, never being able to die again.
Oh yeah, that was the promise I think of the second coming, was like they would get new bodies, right? You're going to get new bodies.
And this is the resurrection. Jesus was resurrected because he now has a glorified body. Lazarus was just brought back from the dead to show that Jesus had the authority over life and death. So he wasn't glorified. Lazarus ended up dying again.
Sure,
so
no, that's really interesting. Like I have not heard a Christian sort of like make that separation, because a lot of people, you talk about resurrections, I think more generally. But yeah, that's cool that you focus on that use of the word for that particular context, because I can see where you're coming from, right? So that's interesting to me. I had not heard that particular like view of when to say resurrection, because so many other Christians will point to, like, even scholars will be like, oh, these other people resurrected. So it was interesting to hear your take on it.
If they say that, they're actually wrong, because being resurrected is actually you coming into your glorified body, not being able to die again. This is why when we die, we're not being brought back yet, because we're not resurrected yet. Once we get resurrected, we will become in our glorified body, not being able to die like Jesus. This is why
you know what? I'll say this. I would think, like, I don't know if you'll do this, but maybe you will. Like when I mentioned Philo, look into some of the Greek writings around the time of, Paul, the Gospels. I think you'll be so surprised at how much of their view of the body, of the spirit, worked its way into the Bible. And I don't know if that will causes any distress to your faith. I hope. So, like Stoicism, look up Stoicism and look up Greek spirit in terms of first.
What was their time period?
First century, the same time the gospel writers are writing, the same time Jesus was alive. Philo was born about 50 years before Jesus. They are writing about, like, they develop such a complex view of spirit and of spiritual bodies that you start to see why, like, Paul talks a lot about, like, the evils of the flesh. Because they were really big, and this is what I mean, like when Paul was a Pharisee, I think he was reading these things because it was in his job description too. And I think he was influenced by this. And there's a lot of scholarship. You can look this, I'm not pulling this out of my ass, right?
Yeah, but
about how, like,
Paul doesn't say this where he got it from. Paul states he got it from Peter.
Oh yeah, sure. Whatever it is. I'm just saying, like, in the stories from the writers of the early church, right? The gospel writers, even the early church fathers, like, they were talking about this stuff. Like, they were informed by it. Here's the thing. I would say one thing I love about biblical scholars is it started to show me how other cultures were influencing the writers of the Old Testament and New Testament which is what we would expect, right? Smart people talking, influence, like, you know, it really explains a lot about why we see certain stories and how they use words. Like I said, the Spirit is so much more used in the New Testament, and I think a lot of that comes from the Greek influence. So look into it, you know, read whoever you want, but I think you'll see a lot of great scholarship on like how Greek thought influenced the writers in the first century. Including the fathers, like the fathers of Christianity, and how they were, before they got the Bible locked down, they were arguing about what book should be in it, right? Like there was debate, and it's fascinating. So, hey, I got to go too.
I just want to show you this real quick.
Oh, sure.
This is the difference between Lazarus and Jesus. Lazarus was a resuscitation, right? I'm telling you the difference. Lazarus was a resuscitation, which is a temporary medical or miraculous reversal of death to return a person.
Oh, got it. I see.
Previous mortal life to their previous
resurrection is permanent.
Exactly. Okay. Resurrection is permanent, going into a glorified, immortal existence.
That's interesting. Like I would not have thought about that, because I hear resurrection used as like a a thing where people die after being resurrected. So that's great. Thanks for sharing.
They're using it wrong.
Tell me, if you and your wife are interested, I did this with another group as well. I would love to talk about the story of Jonah and what I learned from Bible scholars, because I think you would find it fascinating, because I think it brings so much more context to what the story would have meant for the authors at the time. If you're interested, let me know.
I'm gonna look into it. Yeah. I know the story of Jonah biblically, but I'm going to look at it outside of biblical source. So I won't be biased. I'm going to see what they say first.
Here, let me tee it up for you, right? Like the story of Jonah, I don't think has a lot of like spiritual significance. And what I mean is, if you lost, you lose a lot, right? But people can disagree. But what I'm saying is, like, read the start of Jonah. You know what happens? God comes to Jonah and says, "You're going to be my prophet." And what does Jonah say? No, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. That is not how prophets talk to God in the Old Testament, my friend. Like, prophets hang out with kings. God says he does nothing before he has his prophets declare it.
No,
what kind of shit prophet says no to God and then runs away on a boat?
No, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of people who in the Bible, even the righteous men who get angry with God, who tell God no. I give you a perfect example. Do you know who told God no? And he's one of the most profound prophets.
Lay it on me.
Moses.
Oh yeah, Moses argued with God all the time.
And he told before he did all of this, he told God no. He said, "No, I cannot read, I cannot write." And God told him, "Yes, you're going to do this." And Moses said, "No." He said, "Fine, take your brother with you, so that way he can help you with your words and help you with this." But Moses also told God no, and he was a prophet.
Oh yeah, but he said he couldn't read or write. But I think Moses still wanted to be a prophet of God.
No,
right?
He said no.
He didn't want to. He didn't want to be a prophet of God.
He didn't want to. No.
I'll look that into. I'll look into that.
It. Moses didn't want to.
I love the story of like the story where he's running away from God. He gets on a boat. He goes across the sea, and then the stuff about was it Minerva? No, yeah. Nineveh, the city. There's a great explanation about why, one, God says he's going to destroy it, and two, while Jonah gets mad at God about not destroying it. Mm-hmm. And like, it was only explained to me when I saw the scholars talk about why this had an impact for people of the time. So like, yeah, if you ever want to talk about that, 'cause I think it's a great point, because
David does the same thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like,
he's a prophet.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
King David is a prophet too. He was what's called a seer prophet. He could see things that hadn't happened yet. He was what's called a seer prophet. And David would get mad at God too. David would get mad at him and state, why are you doing this to me? Why don't you destroy my enemies? And why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? He's mad at God. So I mean, there's been plenty of prophets who.
That's a fair point. I had not thought about that. I just when someone explained to me, a scholar was talking through Jonah, they were like, this thing is fire, because you have an angry prophet who runs from God, gets on a ship, goes over here, and then gets mad when God doesn't destroy. like the people, the town,
Mm-hmm.
and also like why they portray those of Nineveh as kind of like idiots who like fold immediately. Like, I'll just do this real quick. I know we got to go, but like, it's like, imagine Jonah, right? You've been in a fish, a whale for 3 days. One has to assume doing the bodily functions you do in a fish for 3 days. Then the fish, I think the word is like vomited out is translation, right? It's not an elegant exit from the whale or fish, right? Then he has to walk to Nineveh. I think it's like a couple days, right? Then he has to walk. They describe it as this huge city. So we have a prophet who's been in the side of a whale or a large fish. He was thrown up by the fish. He's been walking for a couple days with no shower. So when Jonah arrives, he is not looking good, right? And he's like, hey, everybody, God says you're going to be destroyed. And like, then what happens? Nobody argues with him. The king of Nineveh starts ripping off his clothes, going, we're so sorry. Everyone put on ashcloth. Put ashcloth on our animals. Like, what? Like, they portray them as just these lunatics who fold immediately. And you got to be like, now some people will be like, well, they were worshiping the wrong God and they realized they were wrong. But also, you know what else it is? It's portraying them as weak. It's portraying them as so like unsecure in their faith that when a prophet came by, the king didn't even argue with him like Moses argued with God. This king folded in a second and demanded everybody fold with him.
Well, what it's displaying is because even the Bible doesn't steer away from there being other lowercase g gods. So what this is displaying is the difference between an actual God and a lowercase g God.
That's
so,
that's
like,
one.
Example,
okay.
There's other gods that are even mentioned in the Bible. That's what I said. The Bible doesn't steer away from mentioning other gods. Like, have you heard of Baal?
Oh yeah, no, I think Yahweh was a minor god under El that eventually they eventually moved up to the primary god and replaced El. So I know there's like other gods in the Bible, right?
No. So El is Elohim. They're the same. Yahweh, Elohim.
I've read scholars that are like, they're not the same. It's actually, there's a good reason that they're not the same. But again, I don't want, so wait, really quick. I'm sorry, I don't want, we have Twitter, but last thing I'll say is like that. You're right. There's one way to be like, they followed a false god. That's one reading. But think about it this way. Nineveh never got its ass kicked by Judea. The Jewish people never got to like really have a military victory over Nineveh until much after this story was written, right? Some scholars are like, this story is like expressing the frustration of the Hebrew people that they were oppressed by Nineveh, capital of Assyria, I think, and they never got to have a military victory. God on their side, wiping them out. This was a story about, hey, God says you're going to be destroyed. You folded as soon as God got here because your God sucks, and also you're weak and stupid. And then at the end, does God destroy them? No, God goes, hey, Jonah, don't be so eager to tell me that I should destroy my children, you little shit. Because Jonah's like at the end, he's mad. He's like, God, I'm mad at you because I knew you weren't going to destroy them. I knew you would forgive them. That's what he's angry about. I love this because it's a twist. Why did he run away from God? Because he didn't want God to forgive them. He wanted no part of being part of God's forgiveness because he hated the people of Nineveh. It expressed a frustration. But instead, this story is about a spiritual forgiveness. They had a spiritual victory over Nineveh because they never had a military one. So it was a story to say, yeah, we still won out in the end. Our God forgave you. God changed his mind. And forgave them.
There's a lot of other because there's a lot of other deep meaning into Jonah as well. I can point you to, but even in Jonah, I can even show you Jesus in Jonah.
We can talk about that, but like my point was like if it wasn't for scholars, like from you, I would hear about maybe Jesus is in it, or it's about one God being more powerful than the other. But the biblical scholars were like, guys, when this story was written, they were trying to like revamp the image of God a little bit, so God forgives them. God has no problem destroying people, right? God destroys cities and nations left and right. But this one, he forgave them, and he also told Jonah, listen, you little shit, like, don't tell me it's easy to destroy my people.
With these cuss words.
Oh, sorry, Polly. He said, hey, Jonah, don't say it's easy for me to destroy my people, right? Which is a good thing to tell a prophet who's really angry at you for not killing a bunch of people. So like the scholarship gave me new insight onto why people may have thought this story was so cool. That's all I meant to say is like outside of the spiritual meaning, the time setting, who the audience was, makes it really understandable about why they may write this. But you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to curse. My apologies. I will definitely keep it in check. But yeah, another good conversation, brother.
Yeah, good conversation. I appreciate the conversation. I think a few more talks, I think you're gonna end up becoming a Christian.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I will say this. If you ever want to give me a book to read on something about your faith, whether it's historical or something else, I'll read it. And I would ask,
boss, I got a perfect one for you.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the name of it?
Hey, read There Is a God by Anthony Flew. He's a man, like I said, he's a scholar, so he's not just anybody.
Right.
Like I said, he's our version of Bart Ehrman back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And he was an atheist scholar for decades until he became a deist in 2004, 2005. And he wrote a book in 2007 that said there is a God, how the most notorious atheist became a believer. He wrote it in 2007 and he died in 2010. Read his book, There Is a God, Anthony Flew.
I'll tell you what, I'll read that, and I'll ask you to read something, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
There's a great book on evolution, and it's not too technical. It's called Your Inner Fish by Neil Shubin.
Your Inner Fish?
By Neil Shubin.
Oh, right here, near.
Yeah.
A journey into the 3 billion year history of the human body?
Yeah. So let's see, it's called Your Inner, let me make sure I got the right one. It's called Your Inner Fish.
Your Inner Fish, a journey into...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one, right?
Yeah, Your Inner Fish, that'd be great. So by Neil Shubin. Yeah, I would say check that out if you get a chance. And like, don't have to agree with it, but I think it gives a really good explanation of like when you talk about like...
Give me a little insight on more of evolution, because I mean, honestly, for me, it sounds kind of crazy, but I'm gonna look into it so I can at least be more informed about it.
That's the thing. I think a lot of, and I want to apologize to you too. Like when we talk about evolution, I can get a little heated. I get a little frustrated.
I agree with you because I'm the same way with the Bible. So it's no hard feelings. That's just the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like it's your show. I'm a guest on your show, so I'm gonna try to rein it in a bit. But yeah, why don't you check that out? I'll check out your book.
This is not my show. This is for me. This is God's show, and
God's show. But you're running it. Like it's sure, but it's your house in the sense of like you're putting it out there on the internet. I'm still a guest in your live stream. I should maintain a little bit better. So yeah, check that out. I'll check out yours, and then yeah, maybe we'll bump into each other between then.
Yeah, okay, for sure. Thank you again. I appreciate you.
Excellent.
Anthony Flew. Look into his biography and who he is. When you see who he was and where he ended up, you're going to be flabbergasted. I promise you.
Yeah, I'll check it out, man. All right, have a good night and best of to your wife and to your family.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.